Hello friends, this is Fictional Vortex. How are you all? So we are back with an interesting movie on what if Naruto had the Senju bloodline with cursed power. But before we start, if you want more stuff like this, then be sure to subscribe and like this video. And if possible share this video with your friends. Now let's start the story. The village hidden in the leaves. For the newcomers, it was paradise, hot sunny days, public baths, the nature, the women. Even the citizens were enjoying their home, proud history, ancient clans, and great Hokage. But not so much enjoyable for Uzumaki Naruto. There was standing a 4-year-old young boy, around 1 meter 5 centimeters in height, no more than 15 kilogram in weight, with sun-kissed blonde yellow hair. 3 whisker birthmarks on each of his cheeks. A black t-shirt with the Uzumaki clan logo on the back of it. His charcoal black eyes that were like space only without the stars. But that boy lost the stars in his eyes a long time ago. He was hated by the villagers because he was the host of the 9-tailed fox. The demon that destroyed the village 4 years ago. The 4th Hokage sealed the demon inside a newborn baby, ultimately saving the village and dying shortly. That boy goes by the name of Uzumaki Naruto. Naruto was the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. He was protecting the village by bearing a burden. That's right, he was keeping the great-tailed beast at bay. So, Naruto must have had a great life since he was protecting the village. No, tailed beast is not the only burden they have to endure. He was hated by the whole village. They only saw him as the 9-tailed fox itself. Heck, the even villagers were saying that he was the fox's spawn. Naruto, to them, was just a reincarnation of the beast. And treated him as such. Though Naruto was but anything like it, he was a joyful child, even with the villagers cursing him every day. But he was even sadder and angrier than he was happy. In the beginning, he cried every time he came back to the orphanage because of what they said to him, sick things that number 4-year-olds should hear. After some time, he became used to it. He could somewhat ignore them, the pain was still there. He was even jumped by the villagers at times. He could never forget the first time such a thing happened. Flashback. 6 months ago, Naruto was at a stand in the middle of the village and was looking at a mask that piqued his interest. He knew he wanted that mask, but wasn't sure if it will look good on him. So, he wanted to try it out. "Hello, can I please try out that mask?" asked Naruto politely. He knew what the reaction may be, but decided he might just try as well. "No, smut, take it or leave it," said the cashier with disgust. Like seriously, what is that demon's problem? He added in his mind. Naruto merely sighed. It was like that anywhere he went. "Okay then, how much is it?" asked Naruto again. 10 euros, he countered. What the actual fuck, thought the little boy angrily. He learned to swear over the time he was cursed at. "But, over there on that sign, it says 5 euros, replied Naruto calmly. "What the fuck is your problem, demon? That's the price for you," the cashier shouted. "What the fuck is my problem? What the fuck is your problem? I haven't done anything to you," Naruto outbursted. At that exact moment, Naruto felt a sudden pain in his left cheek, only to realize he was hit by the older man. Everyone around them started cheering on the cashier's actions. Naruto fell to the ground. Tears slipped from his eyes. Why am I so weak?" thought Naruto with despair. Naruto got up and started running toward the orphanage. Flashback end. Unfortunately, the beatings got worse to the point they started beating him in crowds in the back alleys. He was crying every time after a beating, hoping it for stop. Now he truly knew what it was to be powerless. Helpless. He tried to scream. No help came. He tried to plead. They ignored him and sometimes gave him a harder beating. He tried everything. Nothing worked. Fortunately, he somehow learned to read by himself and started reading all the books at the orphanage. But he knew he needed to gain power so he could defend himself. Naruto was demolished. All the whereas were fairy tale books and stuff like that. Though there was one book that explains the basic shinobi arts such as taijutsu, ninjutsu, and genjutsu. After he read all the books he got bored, so one day he sneaked on one of his supervisors and stole an orange book. Ika Paradise. He got back to his room and started reading it. Naruto was baffled. Naruto understood almost everything, but there were some words that he didn't know. He was a child, and certainly not a stupid one. He found it interesting to say the least. But he finished that book too and there was nothing to read anymore. Luckily for him, his Gigi always came every month to take him for a walk and maybe go eat at the Ichiraku's. It was that day of the month. Naruto waited calmly for his Gigi to arrive. He waited 5 minutes before getting bored and as he turned away from the door it opened showing the third Hokage. The third Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen was an old man, well past his prime. He was wearing the Hokage hat and robe as well. "Naruto, how are you doing?" the old geezer asked. Naruto simply smiled and replied, "Great. Should we go for a walk, Naruto?" asked the Hokage again. "Yeah, so Naruto, how is the orphanage?" "It's been good." The third sighed. He knew it was hard for Naruto. "Gigi?" asked Naruto. "What is it?" Naruto replied Hiruzen gently. He knew that it was at this age people become who they are in the future. And the future was priceless. Is it possible to give me books about ninja arts?" asked Naruto shyly. Sarutobi Hiruzen perked at that. It was unusual coming from Naruto. He knew that was energetic and playful and was sure he never said he wanted to become shinobi. But the Hokage brushed it off and put on a smile. "Sure Naruto, what exactly do you want?" Hiruzen stated, interested in the answer of the child. Naruto frowned. He did not know what exactly he wanted. "I would like a book about taijutsu, basic chakra theories, and genjutsu," Naruto replied calmly. The third Hokage just chuckled. "It is arranged then," was the last thing that was said before the two started walking toward the library. Naruto returned to the orphanage and immediately dived into the books after saying goodbyes to the third Hokage. "Let's see. Maybe I'll start with the chakra book first," thought Naruto happily. After Naruto read all the books he decided to test some things out. After he left, he started walking to the woods. As Naruto arrived at his destination, the first thing he wanted to try out was the chakra theory, specifically the leaf sticking exercise. Naruto knew what to do. It was in the book as an example as well as tree walking, water walking, and the Academy 3. Naruto took a leaf from the ground and put it on his forehead. Now, Naruto wasn't really sure how to use chakra and his attempt wasn't really the one he was hoping for. The leaf just fell from his forehead after sticking for a couple of seconds. Naruto just looked irritated. After picking the leaf again he tried the same thing, but he decided to use more chakra this time. On his second attempt, the leaf stuck on his forehead for a little more before the leaf just flying away. Naruto smiled in realization. "So, too little chakra and it won't stick. Too much and it will fly away," thought Naruto seriously. On his third attempt, the leaf stuck on his forehead and Naruto kept it for 5 minutes before getting bored. "Let's see. What's next? Oh, yeah, tree walking," thought Naruto. Naruto remembered the concepts of the next chakra exercise and walked to a tree. The tree Naruto chose was around 15 meters. On Naruto's first attempt he ran almost 6 meters before the bark broke and Naruto flew away. He did a flip mid-air landing on the ground perfectly. Naruto tried it again only to reach the top of the tree. He was standing still. As beginning to understand the concept of these exercises. The book said that this was a genin-level chakra exercise, thought Naruto before walking down and started heading to a pond. As Naruto touched the pond with his hand, understood something. The water is constantly moving. That means that there are always gaps in the water. I'll need to add more chakra constantly to different parts of my feet, thought Naruto smartly. He tried with only his foot first and the other on the ground since he didn't want to go home wet. He immediately understood that he was right. Naruto stepped with his other foot and walked across the pond and the other way back. Naruto sighed. He really thought that this would prove to be a challenge, but was proven otherwise. Naruto then remembered about the Academy 3. Let's start with transformation jutsu, he thought. He already knew the concept of the jutsu. Transformation jutsu. In a puff of smoke there stood the third Hokage with a pipe in his mouth. A perfect replica, even the small details like eye color, height. Naruto then released the jutsu and started performing the substitution jutsu. He fastly found a substitution, a rabbit. He substituted correctly and then decided to try something out. He walked to the bunny and extended his finger to the rabbit to see. As the rabbit saw his finger it started running to a cliff. And it actually jumped off the cliff, ultimately killing itself. Naruto merely smiled at his success. Genjutsu. Even though this is a simple one, it can be useful, thought Naruto bittersweetly. He made the rabbit think he was a hunter and that the cliff was just a rabbit hole. Then there was the clone jutsu. As he executed it, in a puff of smoke there was a copy of Naruto. It was an okay clone, but still, it wasn't the best one either. I'll need to work on that for sure, thought Naruto. Then there was taijutsu. In the book, there wasn't much information and he didn't want to wait for his Gigi, so he would need to go to the library and... oh fuck, he knew they wouldn't allow him there. Shit, wait, I can just transform into some little genin punk and I'll be able to get the books that I need. Naruto thought with a smirk. He immediately walked out of the forest, only to start heading to the library. As he got there, he quickly transformed himself into a genin. Before getting in, Naruto felt a little anxious. He wasn't sure if this would work. Hello there, greeted the genin Naruto. The librarian just sighed. He was tired of new genins coming every day so they can learn new jutsus, and he really didn't need the dialogue the kid was going to put him through, so he just shrugged him off. Sure kid. The genin level books and jutsus are in section C1, said the librarian, diving into his book. Thank you very much, said the genin Naruto as he started walking to the stated section with a smile on his face. Upon his arrival, he immediately started looking for more advanced chakra books, more advanced genjutsu books, and taijutsu stances. But there was something that caught his eye. Fuinjutsu. Never heard of that before. I think I'll check it out, thought Naruto, amused. 10 minutes later there he was standing on the librarian's counter checking out the books which he grabbed. Including Advanced Chakra Theories, Advanced Genjutsu, a book about taijutsu stances and a book about the hidden village clans. After he left, he started walking towards a training ground. He started reading the Advanced Chakra Theory book and read for a while, until a teenage voice could be heard. My, what do we have here? Said a figure that was no more than 150 centimeters. Huh, was the only sound Naruto made. Kid, you know this is a shinobi-only training ground, right? Asked the figure. Guess, sorry, said Naruto sheepishly. To which the figure started laughing. You're one of a kind, aren't you? Said the figure. I guess. Anyway, who are you, what do you want? Asked Naruto. It's rude to ask someone their name when you didn't introduce yourself first, don't you think? Uzumaki Naruto, said Naruto, introducing himself. If the teenager looked surprised, he didn't show it. He simply smiled. My name is Uchiha Shisui. Anyway, what are you doing here? Said the now identified figure Shisui. He had raven black hair, charcoal eyes like Naruto's, and was wearing a black t-shirt with the Uchiha logo on the back of it. Reading, replied Naruto. Well, what exactly? Naruto wasn't sure if he could trust the man, so he stayed silent. Oh, come on, I'm not gonna bite you. Advanced Chakra Theories. Ho, you are going to become shinobi, I presume? Asked Shisui. Naruto has never thought about it like that. Maybe. Naruto sighed. Say, I have a proposition for you. If you want, I can train you, said Shisui. Naruto looked shocked. Never in his life has he met a man, other than the Hokage, that doesn't look at him with disgust, let alone train him. Are you sure? I don't wanna be a burden, asked Naruto. More sure than I've been my whole life. Don't worry about it, said Shisui with a genuine smile. Then I accept. Good. But I need to know, how much do you know about shinobi arts, replied Shisui. Well, I can walk on trees, water, make transformation jutsu. I was able to catch a rabbit in a genjutsu. My clone jutsu sucks. I don't really know much about taijutsu. I can substitute, and I think to start learning fuinjutsu, said Naruto honestly. Shisui wasn't easily surprised, but this kid surprised him yet again. If what the kid said was true, he was able to master advanced genin chakra control, use genjutsu, and wanted to learn fuinjutsu. That wasn't seen every day. I guess this just makes things easier, thought Shisui with a smirk. That's good, Naruto. That means we'll start with more advanced things, said Shisui. Like what? Asked Naruto. Hop on a tree, replied Shisui. Naruto walked on a tree using his newly learned skill and asked Shisui now what. Without a second Shisui countered. Dodge these. Shisui started throwing kunais and shurikens at Naruto. Naruto's eyes widened as he saw the flying projectiles coming in his direction. He jumped to another tree only to see 3 shurikens, again coming in his direction. Naruto dodged them as well. This continued for 10 minutes before Naruto couldn't stick to the tree any more and simply started falling to the ground only for Shisui to catch him. Naruto smiled. "Are you sure you don't want to kill me, Shisui-san?" said Naruto tiredly. "Just Shisui is fine, and don't worry about it," replied Shisui. Shisui led Naruto on his feet and Naruto just sat down on the ground. "Man, you have no idea how much ramen I'm going to devour," said Naruto with a dreamy face. "Let's see. If you can stay another 10 minutes above the water while I try to hit you with kunais and shurikens, I'll treat you to ramen." Naruto smiled. A smile a little too sweet. Shisui was regretting his decision as he saw Naruto jump up with energy. "Okay then, let's start." Naruto returned to the orphanage tired, but certainly not hungry. He was able to stay those 10 minutes on the water and Shisui treated him to ramen. But that wasn't the only thing that Shisui showed him. Shisui had asked Naruto to perform a clone and suggested something. Shisui suggested that he should try a different kind of clone, a shadow clone. And it worked like a miracle. Naruto was able to do 15 shadow clones on his first try, and Shisui didn't look surprised. Naruto thanked him a lot. His clone problem was now solved and he quickly realized that the clones were not an illusion, but a real clone, a solid one. And not only that, he could remember what the clone did. He knew he clone's memories after the clone was dispelled. Naruto was happy that he learned a new jutsu. Just as he was about to fall asleep, he heard his door open. "Get up, demon, it's your birthday, isn't it? You, by the law, can no longer stay inside the orphanage without my permission. Now get the fuck out of that bed and go away," screamed the woman. Naruto just sighed. It was like that every year. He would get thrown out, so the villagers can beat him for what he has done, or something like that. But every time the Hokage just scolded them and they apologized and he returns. He got up and walked out of the room, proceedingly leaving the orphanage. He walked around the city, thinking about what has he done to deserve what they were doing to him. He then saw a mob of villagers running and screaming toward him. His eyes widened in horror and started running as fast as he can in the opposite direction. He ran, and ran, and ran, but he just couldn't seem to lose them. Eventually, they caught up to him. Naruto was scared for his life. But Naruto wasn't just of the villagers. What really scared him was that he could see 2 shinobi in the crowd as well. "Stop running, demon," yelled one of the shinobi. The shinobi had a chunin attire, black hair, and blue eyes. Their chase continued for another 10 minutes. Until one of the chunins just got angry and threw a few shurikens at Naruto. Naruto was able to jump away to a nearby wall. Damn, the training session he had with Shisui saved his life right now. But the chunin didn't stop there. He threw another set of shuriken and Naruto dodged them by jumping midair. What he hadn't realized was that the other chunin wasn't just standing there. He threw a kunai toward the spot Naruto was going to land. As Naruto was falling, his eyes widened, but as his eyes calmed down he became relaxed. So many emotions were going through Naruto's mind. He was sad, relaxed, glad that it was over. But the strongest emotion he felt was some sort of twisted anger. He felt so much hatred for the village and the villagers. If he could, he would murder every single one of them. But he guessed it didn't matter anymore since he was going to die. The only regret he had was never taking his revenge. "Fuck this village, I hope someone just burns it to the ground," thought Naruto bitterly. But then out of a sudden, he was able to see the trajectory of the kunai. Where it would pass with precision. It took the energy of every single cell of his body and every single fiber from every muscle. But he somehow managed to move midair. Even if it was just a little bit, he was able to dodge the kunai by mere millimeters. The kunai even ripped his clothes a bit. He then glared at the chunins. They looked very surprised, to say the least, and scared, but if you asked them that, they would never admit it. But Naruto wasn't the only thing that scared them, it was his eyes, the Sharingan. The Sharingan was sending them the chills. Naruto's Sharingan had two tomos that were Kama-like. Naruto then proceeded to walk to the kunai that almost murdered him earlier. He calmly bent down and took the kunai in his right hand back gripped. Those eyes. The fox must have given them to you, fucking demon. Shouted the Chunin. Naruto widened his eyes in realization. It all came together. Naruto recently learned in the Fuinjutsu book that items can be sealed into scrolls or other things. His birthday 10th of October. He was born the same day the nine-tailed fox attacked the village. And now people calling him Fox, come on, it was just too obvious. I guess you just spilled the beans. So the fox is really inside of me. Well, that answers a lot, said Naruto with a grim expression. Naruto rushed at them, fast. He was a natural at running. Nobody his age could even compare to his speed. The two Chunin rushed at him with a kunai in hand and started throwing blows, to which Naruto shrugged like it was nothing. I can see so clear, their chakra, and I can see their movements before they actually develop, thought Naruto. Naruto then tried to slash one of the Chunin on the neck, but he dodged him and now he was wide open. The Chunin was about to chop Naruto into little pieces when he suddenly disappeared, only to reappear behind him. Naruto stabbed him through his neck for the kunai to reappear through his mouth. Blood splattered everywhere. It sprayed Naruto like he was a whiteboard and the blood was the coloring. He fell on the ground dead like a sack of potatoes. The kunai has pierced the spinal cord, offing him on the spot. Tari, I'll avenge you, I promise, he said as tears slipped from his eyes. How pathetic. You dare call yourself shinobi, said Naruto in a monotone voice. Naruto smiled. He was enjoying himself to the maximum. He was finally taking his revenge and it felt great. He took the Chunin's kunai and rushed to the other shinobi. The other Chunin tried to take Naruto in a single blow, but Naruto just ducked under it and with one fort motion he stabbed him through the heart. Since his heart was still beating, the kunai bumped with the rhythm of his heart. He fell to the ground. Any last words, scum? The Chunin started laughing madly and screamed. I'll see you in hell, demon. Just die already. I've had my fun with you anyway. Naruto sighed as he stepped on the kunai in the man's chest, only piercing it deeper. The man screamed in pain. 30 seconds later the screams stopped and he finally died. Loud shouts erupted in Naruto's ears. His head snapped to the left and saw the mob of villagers that chased him priorly. Oh boy, isn't this day getting better? Naruto thought to himself, with a relieved expression. He could finally take his revenge on those who molested him his entire life. You must have killed an Uchiha and taken his eyes. Am I not right, demon? Screamed one of the villagers. They all erupted in screams of agreement. Naruto looked at the reflection of his kunai to see what they were talking about. His eyes widened as he saw the Uchiha Kekkei Genkei, the Sharingan. Naruto wasn't as stupid as he looked. He knew too well that to obtain those eyes he must have Uchiha blood coursing through his veins. Maybe he can go to the Uchiha clan and... No, they probably wouldn't accept him. They treated him the same as the villagers. And he would return the favor. He would keep it a secret that he obtained those eyes. But to do that he knew that he would have to leave no witnesses. Well, it doesn't matter, I would have killed them anyways. GHT Naruto as he rushed towards the mob of villagers. It was a total carnage. Blood was flying everywhere. Naruto may have been covered in blood, but now he was just completely red. He sliced one of the villagers' stomach, grabbed inside, and pulled his guts out. On another one, he stabbed him in the head, then kicked the kunai deeper, busting his head open, leaving his brains to spill out. It was brutal. In the end, it was like a battlefield. Blood everywhere, severed limbs, brains sliding on the walls, eyes gouged out. It wasn't done yet. There was still another villager standing. He walked closer and closer to the villager that was on the ground who started screaming in fear. Unlike them, I will kill you slowly, Naruto said as he proceeded to walk closer. Please sob, they made me. Please, sob. I don't think so. Naruto laughed as he started cutting his prey. The villager screamed as Naruto cut through his skin like butter. As the minutes went by with Naruto's torture, he died. Naruto asked a figure. Naruto turned his head to see Shisui standing in the alley. Shisui, What are you doing here? Asked Naruto. Shisui looked at the corpses behind Naruto. He rarely felt sick, but he was. Not from the corpses, but because he knew it was Naruto who did it. He really hoped otherwise. Naruto. Were you the one who did this? Asked Shisui worriedly. Naruto sighed. Yeah. Go on, call me demon, I won't judge you. After all, they did call for a demon, he said as he finally looked at Shisui. Sharingan still manifests in his eyes. Shisui just couldn't seem to get it through his head. His pupil killed 2 shinobi and a mob of villagers. Okay, well, clearly not okay, but the Sharingan was just too hard of a pill for him to swallow. But he got his priorities straight. He could ask him later about it. Naruto, are you okay? Asked Shisui in a concerned voice. Naruto's eyes widened on hearing those magical words. What was special about it was that he never heard those words. What do you mean? Asked Naruto confused. Shisui had a look of disbelief on his face. Has he never had someone to worry about him? I mean what I said, Naruto. Naruto was baffled. Shisui amused him once again. He cared about him. He ran towards Shisui and embraced him in a tight hug. To which Shisui gladly returned. I'm not sure. I mean, I killed so many people. What would the other villagers think of that? Asked Naruto tearfully. Naruto smiled inwardly. He couldn't believe that he could fool someone with just tears. He didn't feel bad. It was quite the opposite actually. If he could, he would kill them again and again until he couldn't physically continue to do so. It's okay, Naruto. I'll take care of it. Really? Thank you so much, Shisui-sensei, said Naruto as he stopped crying. Don't worry about it, Naruto, but what about the Sharingan? Asked Shisui seriously. I don't know. One of the shinobi was about to kill me when I was able to see where the kunai would pass through. I was able to dodge it, and we engaged in battle. I was able to see so much. Until I just killed them, I guess. He would leave the details for now. That's it, I think, Naruto said before he started falling to the ground. Shisui caught him and rushed him to the hospital. Shisui was running as fast as he could to the hospital while carrying Naruto. A lot of different thoughts sprinted through his head. Why did Naruto do this? How did he awaken the Sharingan if he is not an Uchiha? How did he kill 2 Chunins? When he arrived at the hospital, he ran to the emergency. He tried to find a nurse or a doctor that could help Naruto. Shisui didn't know what or why passed out, but he wouldn't take any chances. Who knows, one of the Chunins could have stabbed him somewhere and was slowly bleeding out, or it could be just chakra exhaustion. Then a nurse came into Shisui's field of view. He rushed to her and she gave a glance at whom he was carrying. The nurse sighed. She knew who this boy was very well. It was Naruto. She didn't like him very much, but at the end of the day it was her profession to help patients. Come with me, said the nurse, and Shisui obliged. They walked through the corridors of the hospital and stopped in front of a patient room. You can leave him inside that room. Nobody will be there until tomorrow, the nurse added. Okay, there is another thing I want you to do. Call the Hokage here at once, said Shisui, speaking for the first time he was there. The nurse simply nodded and went to a nearby telephone. Hokage-sama greeted Shisui. He has waited for around 15 for the Hokage to arrive. Shisui of course has waited with Naruto. He was really worried for the boy. Hello, Shisui, greeted back the Hokage. He already knew the basics of what happened. Naruto went on a killing spree in self-defense. The Hokage knew the rumors would spread fast and that Naruto would be even more hated by the villagers. Hokage-sama, Shisui tried to say but was interrupted by the Hokage himself. I know, Shisui. I am in great sadness seeing him in that bed. Let alone he was forced to kill so many people at his age. Forced? Asked Shisui. As I see you are not quite informed. As you know or may not know, Naruto is the Jinchuriki of the Nine-Tailed Fox. He is hated by the whole village, and it seems tonight he finally had enough of it. They tried to kill him and he returned the favor, said the third Hokage. He watched some parts of the carnage through his crystal ball. Hiruzen then went to the scene in person and ordered the Anbu to clean it up. By the time the Hokage was done with his explanation, Shisui had his eyes wide like saucers. He knew that the nine-tailed fox couldn't be killed and was sealed in a baby. But never had he thought that baby is Naruto. That explained a lot to Shisui. but he was also relieved that Naruto was innocent. Hokage-sama, there is something else you should know, said Shisui seriously. What is it? Replied Hiruzen. It's about Naruto. During his fight Shisui was interrupted by the groaning of Naruto. Where am I? Asked Naruto to nobody in particular. He looked and saw Hiruzen talking with Shisui and immediately the memories from the massacre hit him straight in the face. Naruto, are you okay? Asked the third. Shisui meant to ask the same question but decided to keep his mouth shut since he knew the Hokage and Naruto was closer. I think so, replied Naruto. Hiruzen sighed. Do you know who this is? Asked the Hokage as he pointed to Shisui. Naruto nodded. As far as I know he has decided to take you for his pupil, correct? Naruto nodded again. Naruto, before we continue this conversation, I want you to know that you did nothing wrong, said Hiruzen. Naruto smiled. He knew he did nothing wrong. I know Gigi, they attacked me first, said Naruto. That's right, my boy. Now, if it is okay with Shisui I can assign him to train you in his free time, said the third. It's fine by me, said Shisui. I'd be glad, Gigi, said Naruto with a smile. The first true smile he showed in. He didn't even know how much it has been. Okay, then, it's settled. You may start whenever you like. Now, I have to go, I got a lot of paperwork waiting for me in the office. But before that, Naruto, you can't stay at the orphanage anymore. I'll rent you an apartment, do you understand? Naruto perked at that. The third Hokage left Shisui and Naruto alone. Shisui was about to speak up, but Naruto overtook him. Shisui, is it possible you keep the Sharingan a secret? Asked Naruto with a sigh. He thought for a moment. If Naruto is an Uchiha, why wouldn't he want to come into the family? Why would he want to keep the Sharingan a secret, thought Shisui. Why don't you want to come to the compound with me? To finally have a family? Asked Shisui. Depending on Naruto's answer, he would decide to either keep it a secret or not. I don't think they'll accept me. Even if they do, which is an if, I can't just live with the people who hated me. I do, and really want to live with someone anyway. And the Sharingan, I want you to promise me that you won't tell anyone about it, please, asked Naruto. Shisui sighed. He didn't want to lie about Naruto, but he guessed that he would make a compromise on one condition. Okay, I will keep it a secret. Naruto grinned widely, but if I see something fishy with you in your eyes, I'm going to the Hokage. I can live with that, thought Naruto. Deal. Naruto and Shisui were standing in the middle of a training ground. They just arrived and were about to train. On the way to the training ground, they talked about what Shisui was going to teach Naruto. Naruto asked him if he could teach him how to use the Sharingan, to which he agreed. So Naruto, do you know what the Sharingan actually does? Asked Shisui as he needed to know how much he knew about the Dujutsu. And he was interested since Naruto didn't have parents and there was no one to tell him about the clans and Kekkei Genkais. From what I've read and experienced, it can see chakra and predict movements. Asked Naruto. You're partially correct. The Sharingan can indeed see chakra ways and it does kinda predict movements. The Sharingan grants the users incredible clarity of perception, allowing them to track fast-moving objects with ease and even predict the subsequent movements of those objects. But that isn't the only thing that the Sharingan is capable of. It can copy movements including ninjutsu and taijutsu. But that is not the only thing it can copy. It see and copy even small things like the handwriting of another person and motions, explained Shisui. Wow, so let me get this straight. These eyes can do anything? Asked Naruto. These eyes are powerful, Naruto. But they come at a cost. You awakened your Sharingan when you almost died, right? Asked Shisui and Naruto just nodded. The Sharingan could be awakened if the user is under a lot of stress. Like life and death situations or losing something or someone close to you, said Shisui. But fortunately, once the Sharingan is awakened it's easier to evolve it, explained Shisui. Evolve? What does that mean? Asked Naruto. There are 3 stages to the Sharingan. The first one is the very basic stage, the 1 Tomo Sharingan. The second one is the 2 Tomo Sharingan. And the third stage is the 3 Tomo. The last stage is where your Sharingan have matured. The more your Sharingan matures the more increases the clarity of perception. That means you'll be able to read the opponent's moves faster, explained Shisui. That's incredible. Just imagine there are more things the Sharingan can do, said Naruto bemusedly. Oh, yeah, there is another thing. The Sharingan can cast strong genjutsus with only eye contact. That's why they say never look into an Uchiha's eyes. Naruto was devastated. The Sharingan was an overpowered thing to have. He wondered if there is a downside to the Sharingan. Now, you said that you don't know anything about taijutsu. So, we'll start with that, said Shisui seriously. Okay, what exactly? Asked Naruto. First put these on, added Shisui as he offered Naruto weights and Naruto took them. As Naruto grabbed them, his hands couldn't handle the weight and his hand fell to the ground. What the fuck? You expect me to train with these? Exclaimed Naruto. Now, Naruto, watch your language. And yes, you will train with those weights. Now I want you to give me 50 laps on the training ground. Followed by 300 push-ups and finally 500 sit-ups. Only then, I will teach you the Uchiha Interceptor Fist. Naruto paled but obeyed. After Naruto was done, Shisui had shown him the basics of the Interceptor Fist. Naruto sucked the information like a dry sponge. He was able to learn the basics by the end of the day. Shisui even trained him in the ways of the Sharingan. At the end of the training, he told Naruto is to be here at 6 a.m. tomorrow. After he was done with the training for today, he went to the Hokage office and took the keys to his new apartment. He was currently outside his door. He unlocked it with the keys he was given by the Hokage and entered. Inside the apartment was so peaceful. There was everything that should be in an apartment: running water, electricity, stove, bed, etc. He was happy he could finally sleep in peace. The only problem was he didn't know how to cook. He would have to get a recipe book, but for now, he would go to eat outside. After locking the door, he started walking towards his favorite restaurant in the whole city, Ichiraku's. On his way there, the majority of the villagers looked at him with fear and some of them with more anger. There were all kinds of insults. Murderer. Look at that monster. I hope someone kills him for his sins. The Hokage shouldn't have let that murderer walk like he didn't do anything. The villagers just didn't seem to stop talking about Naruto. He on the other hand cracked a smile, a simple genuine smile. Naruto suddenly apped his head to a villager that was talking shit about him, and the villager pulled out a face of horror. Naruto let out a chuckle. Fear, to Naruto, was just a twisted form of respect. Naruto liked his new reputation. Rumors do spread fast, don't they? Wondered Naruto as he arrived at the Ichiraku's. He sat on one of the chairs at the counter. Chuki Oji-san, shouted Naruto to no one in particular. After a moment, a grown man entered Naruto's view. This man was Chuki. He was the only civilian that treated him like a normal kid, other than his daughter, Ayame. Of course, Chuki heard about Naruto's artwork, but he knew too well that they probably forced him. And the kid in front of him was the living evidence. If he truly killed them out of nothing, the Hokage would have locked him. Oh, Naruto, how's it going, my boy? Asked Chuki. It's been normal, you know, been walking here and there, said Naruto sheepishly. Sure. Anyway, the normal, asked Chuki again. Yeah, how's life for you? Replied Naruto. It has been good, Naruto, replied Chuki as he walked to the kitchen and started making Naruto's ramen. The ramen was ready fast. Since Chuki had everything set up, Naruto ate in silence. After he was done, he went back to his apartment and fell asleep. Council chambers. Hiruzen, you've gone soft. Why? Don't you give me the boy and I could make him the village's greatest asset? Asked a figure. The Hokage sighed. Danzo, no such thing will happen. Understood. Shot the Hokage with a glare. Understood, said the now identified person. Danzo. He was fuming inside. He could make Naruto Konoha's ultimate weapon, that way the village could rule over the world. Damn the Hokage for not seeing such an opportunity. Hokage-sama, why don't we just kill the demon? Asked a civilian. The other civilians attending the meeting seemed to agree with her. Hiruzen let out some ki and they immediately lost their composure. He finally had enough of the civilian council. Naruto will not be killed, and Danzo, I've already placed him under Uchiha Shisui's wing to train him, said Hiruzen. If Danzo wasn't pissed enough already, he was now. Why would Hiruzen place the Kyuubi under the Uchiha? Does he not understand that they will just use him? But it didn't matter. He was the Hokage, and his word was the law. Naruto's actions are to be considered in self-defense. The Chunin that were murdered will be reported killed in action. As for the civilians, the third side. This was proving to be a headache. If he said that a shinobi went mad and killed them, no one would believe him. But if he left them without justification, the blame would fall on Naruto. One of our shinobi went mad and murdered him. That's it. I don't want to hear anyone here speaking about this. Understood. Hiruzen couldn't just leave the blame on a 5-year-old. Understood. They said all in Yujin. That troublesome kid, thought the clan head of the Nara clan. The man had a black-haired ponytail and a scar across his right cheek and one on his forehead. The Nara clan was famous for their high IQ. They were the smartest clan in Konoha. There were other clan heads present that thought the same thing, such as Akamichi clan, Inuzuka clan, Aburame clan, Hyuga clan, etc. Now, on to more important things, said the Hokage. Time skip. 2 years later, unknown place. 2 figures with masks could be seen bowing to a man, sitting on a stone throne. The person on the throne was Shimura Danzo. He had summoned his root Anbu that were under his control, not the Hokage's. He had been leading root for years, and the Hokage disbanded it a long time ago, but Danzo just doesn't care. At your orders, Danzo-sama, said one of the Anbu that was wearing an ox mask. Danzo smiled inwardly. He had trained them well. They were emotionless, only mission mattered to them and they didn't care if they or their friends died on a mission. They were real shinobi, at least that was how Danzo saw a shinobi. A ruthless killing machine that was ready to sacrifice himself at every moment. I want you to keep a close look on the Kyuubi. Report to me everything that he does and continue to keep a watch on him, do you understand? Said Danzo without emotion. Yes, sir, said the other Anbu that wore a mouse mask. During his last 2 years of training, Naruto learned a lot of new ninjutsu techniques but wasn't able to mature the Sharingan to the final level. He was able to master the second stage of the Sharingan. In his free time he would test out theories he made in his mind. While most of the theories were unsuccessful, he realized that he could use the Sharingan like a microscope. About his taijutsu, he mastered the Uchiha Interceptor Fist and was now learning new taijutsu stances. And genjutsu, without the Sharingan, he could cast to C rank genjutsus and with it, up to A rank. Over the 2 years of training, he picked quite the knowledge about Fuinjutsu. Naruto now could make explosion tags, and privacy seals. He can make seals to store chakra in them, etc. Naruto was chilling on the training ground. He had just finished his laps for today and was about to continue his push-ups before an Anbu masked figure suddenly came into view. Naruto looked at him suspiciously, before asking, "Why are you here? State your presence." Pushed Naruto. "To kill you," said the Anbu emotionlessly. The NBU rushed Naruto at speeds Naruto couldn't follow. Naruto was beaten ruthlessly until Naruto decided he had enough of this. This Anbu was forcing him to use the Sharingan, and if he didn't, he knew he would die. Sharingan, thought the Anbu and Naruto simultaneously. It looks like I'll need to take this up a notch, thought the Anbu. The Anbu rushed at Naruto again and engaged him in a taijutsu battle. Both of them were fighting very well, but the Anbu seemed to have the upper hand. Naruto switched to the Uchiha Interceptor Fist and was still losing. The Anbu jumped and EU 6 kunais that were not even in Naruto's direction. A normal person would have scoffed, but certainly not Naruto. Over these couple of years, Shisui had taught him to never underestimate an opponent, even if he is weaker than him. With his Sharingan, Naruto saw what the Anbu was trying to do. The kunais were going to collide midair and start a route toward Naruto. He moved out of the way, only to see another couple of kunai flying toward his back. Naruto grabbed a kunai of his own and threw it, ricocheting off one of his opponent's kunai and hitting the other one, saving himself. He's better than I thought the Anbu. He's keeping me on edge. I hope this works, added Naruto in his head as he landed on a tree. He then reached for his legs and took out his leg weights. As he dropped them to the ground, the Anbu thought, "These weights won't change anything." Single quote. The weights dropped and small 3-meter craters occurred. The Anbu's eyes slightly widened. Just what kind of training did the kid go through? Naruto rushed at the Anbu. If Naruto was rushing at low Chunin speeds, he was now at high Chunin to low Junin. Naruto was throwing fists and kicks. But the Anbu just swiftly dodged them. Weak, said the Anbu. And as soon as he said that, Naruto smirked. Behind the Anbu, the earth busted open, showing another Naruto. Shadow clone, had the Anbu in his mind surprised. The clone kicked the Anbu on the back, sending him flying toward Naruto, who was already prepared and sent an elbow toward the Anbu's face. He knew he couldn't dodge it and embraced for impact. The blow he received was hard. His mask cracked, and Naruto still had his own cocky smirk on his face. I'll need to be more careful, thought the Anbu again. Kaden. Hosenka no Jutsu, Phoenix Immortal Fire Technique, said Naruto as he fired 10 small fireballs from his mouth. After the Anbu waved a few hand signs, he exhaled a huge fireball. The fireball ended all the other ones from Naruto's jutsu and continued toward Naruto. He almost didn't dodge it, it was a close call. The fireball burned his clothes a little. Maybe Genjutsu will work on this guy, thought Naruto. Naruto looked him dead in the eyes. What he saw surprised him to the core. He saw another pair of Sharingan looking at him. Suddenly the world arrow, Naruto changed into what looked like hell. Naruto couldn't move, there was a large boulder on top of him. Outside the Genjutsu, Kaden Gokagyu no Jutsu, Fireball Jutsu, a large fireball went flying at Naruto, who wasn't moving. The case with this Genjutsu was different. Naruto knew what was going on outside of it, but he couldn't move because his body was under a boulder in another world mentally. Memories from 2 years ago hit him, as he felt the same feelings of being hopeless. The same type of twisted anger coursing through his mind, the same type of regret. But suddenly, Naruto was able to move freely. He felt so fast and strong too, almost like a power buff. He walked out of the fireball's way and looked at the Anbu's eyes. The Anbu was quite shocked, to say the least. Naruto had 3 Tomo Sharingan with slits across his pupil. He rushed at the Anbu with speeds he was never been able to use before. At this point, the Anbu was struggling to keep up with Naruto. Now, Naruto had the upper hand in the fight, and things weren't looking good for the Anbu. Until another voice could be heard. A voice too familiar with Naruto. Oi, Itachi, I share with you personal things. And I get this in return, screamed Shisui. The fight stopped immediately. Naruto looked confused and the Anbu just sighed. Shisui, you know such matters are important to the clan and the village. Right, asked the Anbu in a relaxed tone. I did promise to him that I'll keep it a secret, replied Shisui. You of all people should know the importance of such secrets, said the Anbu. Removing his mask, revealing a raven-haired boy just like Naruto's, that was no more than 4 years older than him. Uchiha Itachi, thought Naruto knowingly. If the KS didn't give him enough information about the current clan head heirs, Shisui surely did. Shit, to hell keeping the Sharingan a secret, what a joke. It ends right here. Naruto knew that Itachi was the heir of the Uchiha clan, the fucking Uchiha clan. And you came and started to beat the shit out of him. Just because he's our family? Asked Shisui. By now Naruto's nine-tailed Sakura disappeared, leaving a fully matured Sharingan. Shisui picked it quickly and decided to praise him and continue to scowl at Itachi. Congratulations Naruto. And Itachi, look just how much you forced the kid, said Shisui in a disapproving tone, Naruto totally ignoring his words since he was too busy eyeing Itachi. But I guess at least something good came out of this, he added. Uchiha Itachi, said Naruto, speaking for the first time since Shisui arrived. Itachi tuned to the kid. He was surprised, to say the least. He was no ordinary kid, he knew that much. Naruto was able to identify him. Also, he was not only brute strength like he thought he was, but he had the brains too. He used clever tactics like the one with the shadow clone and saw in which area he was inferior in and tried to avoid it. Uzumaki Naruto, replied Itachi. Naruto sighed. He already knew Shisui told him about his Sharingan. There wasn't really another reason the Uchiha clan heir would attack him. Shisui, what happens now? Asked Naruto. Don't worry about your little secret, Naruto. I'm sure I and Itachi can sort it out, right Itachi? Replied Shisui. Itachi sighed. I guess we can think something up. I trust you, and it seems that you trust him, so I'll try to do that too. Sorry Naruto-kun, it seems that I pushed you more than I intended, apologized Itachi. What do you mean by that? Naruto asked. He inwardly accepted Itachi's apology, and if Shisui trusted him he would trust him too. You haven't realized? Asked Shisui, now coming closer to the duo. What? Asked Naruto suspiciously. Your Sharingan, it evolved, replied Itachi, instead of Shisui. Naruto took a kunai and watched a reflection of his eyes. He was surprised to see a matured Sharingan. Wow, thought Naruto, kindly surprised. That's good, now I can take your training to the next level. Shisui said. Naruto hummed. Okay, now I have places to attend to. I hope you two don't start another fight. Shisui left with these words. Want to grab something to eat, suggested Naruto. I'd love that. Naruto smiled as he walked with Itachi to his favorite restaurant. Naruto and Itachi were peacefully eating ramen at the Ichiraku's. Naruto finished his bowl and turned to Itachi. Itachi-san, I suggest you go home. I wouldn't like you to be caught in a mess, said Naruto. Itachi wasn't sure how to take what Naruto just told him. What would the word mess mean in this context? Itachi wasn't sure, so he decided to ask him. Itachi is just fine, Naruto-kun. And I don't quite follow. Itachi replied. It doesn't matter anyway. It's too late now. Naruto sighed. The third Hokage was behind Naruto with 6 other anbuses. Itachi was shocked. What? Why is the third here? How did Naruto know that he'll come? What did he do? Were the thoughts running through Itachi's mind. Naruto, are you okay? What happened? Asked Hiruzen unknowingly. I don't know, Gigi. At one point I was sitting at the training ground and after that I was with Itachi and Shisui, trying to help me, said Naruto honestly. After saying that, Naruto shot a glance to Itachi that said, play with me for now. Itachi seemed to catch it and worked with Naruto. Hiruzen was surprised to see Itachi next to Naruto. When did those two meet? It must have been Shisui since they were great friends with Itachi. Is that true, Itachi? Asked the Hokage. Yes, sir. Shisui and I were going to meet Naruto, and when Shisui started introducing me he started attacking us. We somehow calmed him and we came to eat since Naruto was hungry. Wow, he is a good liar, thought Naruto amused. I want the both of you in my office, commanded the third. He and most of the stronger shinobi felt that chakra playing with the Kyuubi was no joke. Is it okay if Itachi finishes his ramen first? I mean, I did drag him into this, asked Naruto with pleading eyes. He of course used Itachi's ramen for diversion, so they can set up what they will tell the Hokage. It's okay, I reckon, and know this, you are not in any kind of trouble, the both of you. I will wait for you in my office, said the third as he vanished with his anbu. Why did you lie to the Hokage? Asked Itachi. There are things he shouldn't know, replied Naruto. Like you, Naruto stopped Itachi in his tracks. Like that? Yeah, okay. And there is another thing you should know. I don't want you to hear it from someone else, said Naruto, and Itachi nodded. I'm the 9-tailed fox Jinchuriki. Itachi's eyes widened. He knew what a Jinchuriki was because his father made him read books about history. In the books, there was information about Jinchuriki, human sacrifice. The people who hold great-tailed beasts inside them. They were usually used as a weapon. Do you hate me? Asked Naruto. Itachi thought and thought. He knew Naruto did nothing wrong, so why would he hate him? He was just a human sacrifice. No, I don't hate you, Naruto-kun, answered Itachi with a smile. Really? Asked Naruto, trying to see if Itachi was lying, but he couldn't detect any lies. Yeah, that's good. Now, do you trust me? Asked Naruto. I do, replied Itachi. 5 years later, Shisui couldn't stop looking at his two peers, Uzumaki Naruto and Uchiha Itachi. Both of them had matured over the years, more than Shisui could have asked for. The two of them became like brothers, much to Shisui's surprise. They were like siblings from different fathers. They became good friends. No, rather rivals is the correct word, thought Shisui. Naruto and Itachi were currently eating a popsicle. Shisui started walking closer to them. But his happiness quickly washed away. That's because the Uchiha had been acting lately. Shisui and Itachi already knew what this fuss was about. The legendary clan felt like the village has been stripping them from their power, and they decided it would be good to try and execute a coup d'etat. I need to tell Itachi that the situation has gotten only worse, thought Shisui sadly as he got closer to the two. Shisui ni-san, shouted Naruto. Naruto learned to look at Shisui as his big brother over the time they spent together. Naruto, how's it been? Said Shisui with a voice mixed with happiness and kindness. It's been great. Itachi and I were just talking about jutsu he was going to teach me, replied Naruto. Shisui smiled at this. He felt like he was stupid and a little scared. Even though Naruto didn't show it now, he was much like Itachi. When the situation called, he turned on his better self. He was like a copy of him. Shisui wasn't sure Konoha could take two of Itachi's kind. It's good to hear, but I came to talk business with Itachi, said Shisui. Itachi just sighed. He already knew why Shisui would come to them. Does that mean you would go to talk in private? Asked Naruto. Such talks were often a thing between the two. He always wanted to know what they talked about, but they brushed him off. Shisui sighed. It was time to tell Naruto the truth. He knew it would be a tough pill to swallow, but he needed to know. He felt like shit just lying to him, and he could trust him. No, it's time you learn the truth, said Shisui, surprising Itachi. Shisui, is it wise? Asked Itachi. No need to keep him in the dark anymore. He has matured enough, replied Shisui. If you say so, said Itachi with a sigh. Naruto, the next thing I will tell you may shock you greatly, but keep your composure, just like we trained you, okay? Asked Shisui. Naruto nodded. The Uchiha are planning a coup d'etat over the third Hokage. Itachi is a double agent for the village and the clan, while I am a spy only for the village. If this coup d'etat happens, a civil war will take place. Itachi and I are working together to stop it, explained Shisui, leaving the small details out. Naruto remained stoic as if Shisui didn't tell him anything. May I speak? Asked Naruto. What's on your mind? Replied Itachi in place of Shisui. Is that why the Hokage and the Uchiha clan have been acting strangely lately? Asked Naruto again. Both Itachi and Hisui slightly widened their eyes in shock. Naruto, you truly are one of a kind, were the kind of thoughts that ran through the Uchiha cousins' heads. Yes, and now that you know such information, it's important that I reveal to you the secrets of the Sharingan before I continue with the plan for countering the coup d'etat. The three-tomo Sharingan isn't the final form of the Dujutsu. There's another stage called the Mangekyo Sharingan. Mangekyo Sharingan, thought Naruto. The Mangekyo Sharingan is said to be the most powerful Dujutsu. It can control even tailed beasts. There are more things these eyes can do, but I'm not going to go into details. However, the Mangekyo Sharingan does come with a price. To awaken the eyes, you have to experience something traumatic, such as watching your best friend die, for example. That is why the Mangekyo Sharingan is a forbidden stage of the Sharingan. Many Uchiha went mad and started murdering those close to them to achieve such power. Explained Shisui. These eyes seem to be more of a curse than a blessing, thought Naruto. So if you're telling me that the Mangekyo Sharingan is connected with your plan, that means that one of you has awakened it? Asked Naruto with narrowed eyes and a little worry. Yeah, replied Itachi. Let me guess. It's you, Shisui, right? Asked Naruto. Single quote. He's able to see through anything we throw at him. Yes, but how did you guess? Asked Shisui. You are the oldest, it only makes sense. You have the most experience from all three of us, and you even fought in the Third Great Shinobi War. Not surprised if something happened there. Truly smart, Naruto, but you got one part wrong. I didn't awaken the Mangekyo Sharingan in the war. I awakened it after. Naruto nodded. Itachi was starting to feel a little worried. He wasn't sure if Naruto was going to try and obtain the eyes for power. You never know, since he was an Uchiha too. Naruto seemed to read Itachi's mind and answered the unasked question. I have no interest in the Mangekyo Sharingan. They both hummed in response. Now to my plan. I plan on using the ability of my Mangekyo, Koto Amatsukami. It is the ultimate genjutsu where I can make a person not even realize he is even in a genjutsu. I can make him do something and he will think it is by his own will doing that. I can create, delete and edit memories. I plan on using it on Fugaku-sama during the clan meeting, making him believe that he no longer wants to throw a coup d'etat, explained Shisui. HN was the reply he got from Naruto. Do you think it's wise revealing to me such secrets? Asked Naruto. We trust you, Naruto-kun, said Itachi as he remembered the first time he trusted Naruto. Flashback 5 years ago. Do you hate me? Asked Naruto. Itachi thought and thought. He knew Naruto did nothing wrong, so why would he hate him? He was just a human sacrifice. No, I don't hate you, Naruto-kun, answered Itachi with a smile. Really? Asked Naruto, trying to see if Itachi was lying, but he couldn't detect any lies. Yeah, that's good. Do you trust me? Asked Naruto. I do, replied Itachi. Now, I want you to look surprised if the Hokage reveals anything I shouldn't know. Take the Kyuubi as an example. Okay, asked Naruto. Okay, replied Itachi. Great, now let's go. Hokage-sama greeted Itachi as he and Naruto entered his office. Itachi, it's good that Naruto found some friends, pondered Hiruzen out loud. Itachi nodded and Naruto smiled. Itachi, is it possible if you to leave me and Naruto to have a private chat? Asked the third. Yes, sir, replied Itachi. No, I want him here. Whatever you have to tell me, you tell Itachi too, said Naruto in an impulsive, energetic voice. His personality completely changed. A mask, thought Itachi carefully. Naruto wasn't himself around the third, which means he doesn't really trust him. Okay, Naruto, but I want to tell you in person first, then if you want you can tell Itachi, said Hiruzen. Naruto sighed. Okay. Itachi left the room with a bow of respect, leaving him alone with Sarutobi Hiruzen. A little over a minute passed as Itachi heard screaming and shouting coming from the Hokage office and knocked on the door before opening it. What he saw shocked him greatly. He saw a crying Naruto hugging the Hokage. He was sobbing like he never cried before. Naruto, do you want Itachi to know your secret? Asked the Hokage in a calm and kind voice. After what seemed like an eternity, Naruto whispered. Yeah, Itachi, Naruto is the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. I really hope you wouldn't treat him like the rest of the villagers. Itachi quickly remembered what he talked about with Naruto and purposely widened his eyes. He left his mouth gape opened. But he thought a little about the Hokage's words. He knew how Naruto awakened his Sharingan since Shisui told him, and he knew that the villagers hated him. He also heard rumors about Naruto murdering a group of civilians, so he went to ask Shisui about it and got the truth of him. Frankly, Itachi hated fighting. If he wasn't such an important figure, he would have never become a shinobi. But now he had a friend he needed to protect. Itachi quickly returned to his casual features before smiling. It's okay, Hokage-sama, Naruto is my friend and I would never do anything to hurt him, said Itachi, and the Hokage nodded. Naruto, you may go. Itachi, stay here. Naruto left and Itachi looked at the Hokage seriously. Please look after him, said the Hokage in a sweet tone with a smile. A smile which Itachi gladly returned. Don't worry, Hokage-sama, I will look after him. Flashback end. Itachi looked at Naruto. Over the last 5 years he felt as close to him as Sasuke, and he was his full-blooded brother. But he didn't only see him as a brother, rival too. He could still remember their friendly spars that would take part every now and then. While most of them were draws, Itachi was leading with a single win. Why the two of them became friends was also the day they started teaching him elemental manipulation. Flashback. So Naruto, now that your Sharingan matured, I can start teaching you elemental manipulation, said Shisui alongside Itachi. Naruto merely hummed. Shisui acknowledged it and took 3 sheets of perfectly square thin papers from his pocket. Naruto looked at them knowingly. Shisui was interrupted by Naruto. Chakra paper. You were right, but don't interrupt me, said Shisui, annoyed. I guess if you know chakra paper, then you know what elemental natures are, added Itachi in a question. Yes, I know, and I've heard that if the paper burns, fire nature, shrink, lightning, slit, wind, crumble, earth, and soak, water. As always, sharp I see. You're right, said Shisui. Shisui handed a piece of chakra paper to Naruto and he took it. He poured a bit of chakra into the paper, and what happened next surprised even Naruto. The paper sliced in two. One half shrunk and the other one burnt, both of them simultaneously. Itachi choked on the air around him and Shisui was as if he saw a ghost. I'm pretty awesome, huh? Said Naruto sheepishly. Idiot, do you even know how rare is that? Shouted Shisui. Not exactly sure. Very. Asked Naruto. Very, very rare, replied Itachi getting over his shock. That's good. Itachi and I can help you master your fire and I know a guy that can help you with your lightning and another with your wind nature, said Shisui finally. I wonder what future awaits you Naruto, deeply thought Itachi. Naruto was standing in front of Shisui and Hatake Kakashi. Kakashi was average in height for his age at least. He was in his early 20s and had spiky white hair, a face mask covering his nose bridge, and a forehead protector covering his left eye. Naruto knew very well what was under the head protector. He had a general conception, but not in detail though. Apparently, during the last war, an Uchiha boy sacrificed himself and gave him his eye. At least that was what he could get out of Shisui. Naruto, I have taught you everything I could. It is key. A feat to master fire manipulation at the age of 12. Now, before you say anything we will see each other but not that often since I'm in Anbu and I do have missions regularly. I will hand your training to Hatake Kakashi. I believe you already know each other, said Shisui. Yeah, we've met before, said Kakashi lazily. Naruto confirmed it by the nod he gave away. Kakashi here will teach you how to control lightning manipulation. Unfortunately, you won't be seeing Itachi as much as you used to since he is in Anbu like me. Any questions, Naruto? Said Shisui calmly. He knew. It must have been hard for him to suddenly detach himself from him and Itachi. Naruto looked at Shisui knowingly before sighing. No, just be careful with your missions, answered Naruto and Kakashi showed interest in the tone he picked. It was a bit tired with a glint of worry, but overall it was quite stoic. I won't ask him now, thought Kakashi. He was the best analytic Konoha had to offer. He knew something was going on. I'll be going then, said Shisui as he left. The situation with the village and the Uchiha clan had worsened, by a lot. They now had a date when He would capture Naruto and bust the Kyuubi out from him. Tomorrow was the clan meeting and if his Kotoamatsukami didn't work something really bad was going to happen. So, introduce yourself, said Kakashi while pulling out a certain orange book from his ninja bag. Okay, Naruto thought for a little bit. I like training with Shisui and Itachi, drinking exotic teas. I really like people who look down on me for what I bear. And for dreams, I guess peace. And now you Kakashi of the Sharingan, I've heard a lot about you, but not personal things like dislikes and dreams, said Naruto. Shisui told me this kid is something else, even falling into the ranks with Uchiha Itachi. Let's see how much of a prodigy he is. Did you say anything? Asked Kakashi as he pulled out his head from the book he was reading. Naruto sighed. Something was telling him that this was going to be a long day. Shisui, are you sure this will work? Asked a man with a hat that said, fire, on it. It was the third Hokage. His voice held hope for the offer Uchiha Shisui was giving him. To think he can manipulate the clan head into not launching the coup d'etat was something unrealistic. Yes, Lord Hokage, I'm positive that my Mangekyo Sharingan can stop all this nonsense, replied Shisui confidently, and before the Hokage could say anything Danzo spilled his own piece of advice. Sarutobi, do you believe the boy can do it? Why not just get rid of them? Said Danzo. Danzo, such actions will not be executed until we have to, replied the Hokage to the old war hawk. You've gone soft over the years Hiruzen, said Danzo. Meanwhile, Shisui stood there with the feeling of sadness washing over him. He didn't like the way Danzo talked about his clan but in a way, he could understand him. Anyways, we'll see tomorrow, said Hiruzen. The next day, Shisui was sitting in the woods very close to the place where the clan meeting was. He could clearly see the clan head Uchiha Fugaku and the rest of the Uchiha clan. Good. All I need to happen is for him to turn around so I can use Kotoamatsukami, thought Shisui. His Mangekyo Sharingan manifested in his eyes. Just as Fugaku was about to turn around to face Shisui he felt enormous pain as he realized that his right arm was missing. On a branch not too far away, Shisui scoffed at his now gone arm after getting over his shock. He looked at the one who did this to him and he wasn't surprised to see Danzo with a compact squad of his root Anbu. Danzo! Screamed Shisui as a greenish humanoid skeleton started to form around him. So this is the Susanoo, thought Danzo. Of course, the elder shinobi generation has heard stories about Uchiha Madara's Susanoo and how the only thing that could counter it was Senju Hashirama's wood dragon. But not long after, Shisui's Susanoo started to fade away as he coughed up blood. He knew that he wouldn't survive if he stayed there any longer, so he started teleporting away via Shunshin. Fast! We can't let him escape without his eyes! Shout Danzo to his Anbu. Shisui was running as fast as he could and unfortunately for him, they were catching up to him fast. One of the Anbus that were chasing Shisui suddenly threw a kunai in his direction but was immediately reflected by another one. Shisui looked at the figures who saved him, Itachi, Naruto. He thought with a shocked face. What were they even doing here? Shisui, are you okay? Asked Naruto and Itachi in union. Naruto quickly looked at Shisui's shoulder where an arm should be, but there wasn't anything. What are you two even doing here? Asked Shisui concerned. Flashback. A few minutes ago, Itachi and Naruto were walking on a sidewalk throughout one of the many parks in Konoha. Both of them were having small talks with each other when they suddenly felt a huge spike of chakra. This as Itachi got interrupted by Naruto. Shisui's chakra. Let's go. He might be in trouble, said Itachi. In return, he got a HN from Naruto. As they wandered in the woods they saw an armless Shisui fighting off Anbu. They saw a kunai flying toward him and Naruto took his own kunai and threw it with accuracy, deflecting the kunai. Flashback end. Anyway, what exactly happened to your arm? Asked Naruto. It was Danzo. He did this to me, but it doesn't matter. We need to get out of here now, said Shisui worriedly. Both of them nodded and they started shunshining away. Hisui with the help of Itachi and they stopped at a cliff with a beautiful sight and an almost drained river with huge rocks in it. It seems that we escaped from them. Now the voice of Naruto was suddenly interrupted by Shisui himself who had a sad smile forged on his face. Nothing will go as you imagine, Naruto. I'm a dead man, even losing blood as we speak, said Shisui solemnly. No, but we are not too far away from the hospital and there will be someone to help. Itachi, you know what to do, right? About the eternal light, asked Shisui, interrupting Naruto. Itachi's eyes threatened to release tears. I know. Good. Then my job here is done. Naruto, you are the future of this village. You have to protect everyone in it as if they are your family. Shisui lied as he started gouging out his eyes in front of the two. What are you doing? Asked Naruto as he started hushing deeply. I'm doing this for the future, Naruto. Shisui handed his eyes to Itachi and started walking back to the edge of the cliff. Naruto tried to run and stop him, but Itachi caught him by the collar. Itachi, Naruto, don't cry. If you are truly my friends, don't stop me. Were Shisui's last words as he started falling down. Naruto let out a gasp when he saw Shisui's body completely obliterated by the rocks in the river. Thank goodness Naruto couldn't see it from up where he was. But down there Shisui was in 3 different parts. Head completely crushed. One couldn't even guess it was Shisui. His torso, severed from his legs leaving guts laying on the ground still connected to his legs. Naruto's along with Itachi's eyes started spinning madly as Itachi's eyes developed into the Mangekyo Sharingan, Itachi's cannon in Naruto's like Indra's before Naruto passed out. A tear fell from Itachi's right eye, a tear of blood. Naruto woke and couldn't see anything. He felt a blindfold on his face and debated to whether take it off but guessed he wouldn't for now. He wasn't at his house, it wasn't the hospital either, so where was he? Suddenly he heard the voice of Itachi. I owe you a lot, Izumi. You do. And to keep this from your father. Whose she was cut by Itachi. He's waking up. Itachi seemed to cut off everyone today. Do not take your blindfold off, said the woman. What happened? Naruto asked without a single clue. Naruto, keep it to yourself, remember what Shisui and I thought you, okay? Said Itachi as memories from last night hit Naruto, and every time he played, trained, cried, and ate with Shisui started flashing through his mind. Tears left his eyes. getting the blindfold damp and tears slipping through. Suddenly, both Itachi and Izumi started sweating bullets from their foreheads as they felt something really dark and evil enter the room. Itachi started looking around to find the intruder, but soon realized it was coming from Naruto. He quickly realized that it was the Mangekyo Sharingan. Such powerful eyes, thought Itachi as he walked to Naruto and poked his forehead muttering. It's okay, Naruto. Go sleep, I'll take care of the rest. Naruto nodded and laid back in his bed and was surprisingly tired for some reason. The next time Naruto woke up he opened his eyes. He was surprised, to say the least. The young boy expected to have a blindfold on his face. After getting up from his bed, he walked to the mirror, closing his eyes and reopening them with a newly strange Sharingan pattern. Mangekyo Sharingan, thought Naruto sadly. He knew there was something wrong with his eyes. They were whispering to him. Use the power. Destroy everything. Show everyone. Show them. Naruto flinched as he heard the door opening, revealing Itachi in casual clothes. Good morning, Naruto, greeted Itachi. Good morning, Itachi. How long have I been out? Asked Naruto. Almost 2 weeks. At that, Naruto deadpanned. Did he sleep for 2 weeks? Naruto. It's inevitable, said Itachi with a pained voice. I know. Life is cruel, isn't it? Added Naruto. It is. I'll leave you to your thoughts. But don't ponder too much, said Itachi before leaving Naruto alone in his apartment. 2 days later, the last couple of days were hard for Naruto. He cried, cursed, and cried some more. He kept wondering why was this world so shit. He had everything he needed and it just swayed it all away. During those 2 days, the Hokage visited him to speak about Shisui's death and Naruto replied that he didn't know anything about it. He was sad and wasn't afraid to show it to him. He didn't eat much either, mainly running on vegetables and tea. He was currently laying on his bed, with nothing particular in mind. He decided it was best if got a walk around Konoha to clear his head from his eventful past few days. He walked through Konoha's empty streets. It was very late. There wasn't a villager in sight, and Naruto walked for half an hour before he saw a bench and sat down with a sigh. At once, a few crows merged into a humanoid form that turned into Itachi. He was wearing his Anbu attire, face serious. It's done, said Itachi with a stoic face. Fuck, Naruto let out frustratedly. What the hell was happening? Firstly Shisui, now Itachi slaughtering their clan. Not that Naruto really cared about them. I'm now a Rouge ninja. Next time we meet, we'll probably have to fight. And if I were you, I'd go and check OU. The Uchiha stone tablet. There's a building beside the Naka River, and inside it under the 7th tile, there is a hidden entrance to an underground room where the Uchiha clan did their meetings. This is a goodbye Naruto. Itachi burst into a few crows leaving the same way he arrived, leaving Naruto to ponder why things happened that way. Did they really have to? Naruto woke up earlier than he intended to. But it didn't matter, it was nice to have time. He had enough time to cook breakfast, brush his teeth, do his morning stretch, go work out and take a shower before the academy starts. Outside it was pitch dark. He got up and looked at his orange jumpsuit and sighed. He didn't really like it, but the second Hokage, Senju Tobirama, once said that a true shinobi always keeps his true strength a secret. The only time shinobi should go all out is when the threat is a really strong ninja. So he decided to study the Hokage's history and quickly found out his favorite was the second. After reading book after book he realized the man's character, silent, calm, strong, and above all, he sacrificed himself for the village and his friends during the Second Shinobi War. That's what made him so special. Sure, the other Hokages sacrificed themselves for the village, but Tobirama saved his friends, his close ones. A real shinobi who values the most important thing, his comrades. Comrades. Shisui was his comrade too, but over the past week, he realized that he didn't need to mourn over him. He died for what he believed, and that enough was what made his life not wasted. But it still hurt Naruto, even when Itachi left him. No need to think about the past, though. He was in need to think about the future. And from that day on Naruto decided he would listen to Tobirama's pieces of advice he left and put them to use. He'd make sure he was seen as a fool, but for now, he had to put his mask on. His mindset was also a weapon, he realized after reading more and more about shinobi. So wearing his jumpsuit would put a huge theater and he'd be looked down on as a clown. After a quick stretch and a breakfast, he went to the training grounds and did his routine workout. When he was done it was about 7:30 a.m., which meant he still had half an hour before the academy started. He went home and after a fast shower, he started walking towards the academy. On his way there, he heard whispers, but he didn't give them much thought since he was used to them. They were all the same whispers about how he murdered those civilians a few years back. Once he got there he was met with the academy bell. He was in no rush though as he calmly entered his class. "Naruto, where have you been?" shouted Naruto's teacher, Iruka Yumino. Naruto sheepishly rubbed the back of his head and started laughing embarrassingly. "Well, you see, I was with two guys, one of them died and the other one abandoned me, so I got lost and couldn't find my way back," replied Naruto while nodding comically, actually believing his lie. Iruka slapped his forehead, wondering if he was hallucinating or this Naruto was worse than he was before. He didn't see a point in arguing with the boy, so he just sent him to his seat. Naruto casually sat beside the only loyal Uchiha to Konoha and gave him a glare when he saw all the girls sta ring at Sasuke and he didn't even reflect him. "Tem!" screamed Naruto. "Dobi, just shut up and sit before you draw more attention than you already did." Sasuke shot back and if possible Naruto sent him an even harder glare. At that, the whole class started laughing at the Uzumaki's behavior. "Shut up!" screamed the sensei. Training Ground 4. Naruto just got to the training ground. After long browsing through the Konoha's library A rank fire jutsus. He found quite the exceptional ones. Fire Style. Phoenix Sage Flower Nail Crimson. B rank. The user unleashes a volley of shuriken with one hand. And at the same time, exhales fire-infused chakra onto them in order to increase the weapon's destructive power by making them capable of inflicting severe burns upon direct contact with either the intended victim or any other object caught within their trajectories. Fire Style. Blast Wave Wild Dance. B rank. The user needs chakra inside their body and converts it into fire, which is then expelled from the mouth in a large stream. The blaze is drawn into a spiral when the user expands their stomach, which will engulf the opponent in a massive vortex, giving them no option to escape, leaving them to suffer and burn. Fire Style. Fire Release Stream. A rank. The user gathers chakra in their lungs and emits it through the mouth, blowing out a considerable stray of flames that can travel across far distances. That were the jutsus he decided to learn first. He would take his pace slow for now. There was no point in learning a few jutsus at once if there wasn't actual power behind the attack. In reality, Naruto was doing the same thing, but he did have shadow clones in his arsenal to help him learn faster, a lot faster. He created 400 shadow clones in total. "Okay, get into 4 groups of 100. He commanded and they obliged. Yuhi pointed at the first group. "Go and practice the Blast Wave Wild Dance Jutsu." Yuhi pointed. "At the second group you will practice the Fire Release Stream Jutsu." And Yuhi pointed at the third group will learn the Phoenix Sage Flower Nail Crimson, and last but not least you guys will go and finish the first step to mastering the lightning element. Naruto said. The first step to mastering the lightning element was really similar to the rest of the elements. Take a leaf and wrinkle it to a ball with chakra only. And I will train the muscles. Wonder how my shadow clone is doing at the academy, he thought to himself with a smirk. The third Hokage sat in his office and released a sigh when he thought about Naruto. The boy was an enigma. Before Shisui died he ordered him to give him a report about him after he was done with his training. Unfortunately, he passed away before he got the chance to learn more about Naruto. Of course, Shisui told him small things like, "Naruto is a very smart boy. Single quote. Naruto is growing into a fine shinobi. Single quote. He may even surpass you in terms of strength one day, Hokage-sama. Single quote. And now this." Naruto was acting like an idiot. Hiruzen could clearly see through his glass ball that Naruto wasn't the same anymore. Did Shisui's death fuck him up? It's probably that, he silently told himself. He was very sad when he saw him a few days ago. He'll never forget the tears he let out, and now because of At Hiruzen felt as if he stepped on a shit. But there wasn't anything he could have done, it had to happen. But maybe if he went into negotiations, maybe it would have turned out differently. But inking about the past won't make the dead alive again. Naruto, I just hope that you'll be fine. Single quote. You said you could get me in, correct? Asked a figure in Anbu attire. Yes, but that aside, who would have thought little Uzumaki had the genes in him to awaken the Sharingan? Replied another figure with black, stealth shinobi clothes and an orange face mask with a single hole in his right eye that was clearly Uchiha's famed dujutsu. Itachi narrowed his eyes dangerously at him. If I were you, I'd consider my next words very carefully, Madara, replied the man. Don't worry too much, Tachi. And I told you my name is Toby Tilda, Tobai Tilda. And Toby Tilda-chan is a good, very good boy Tilda, you can count on him for your secrets. Replied the now identified person Toby with his hands in the air. As you say, Toby, now let's go. Said Itachi, not sure what to think. Toba's, or rather Madara's behavior was unpredictable. Naruto's clone was sitting in class and had serious thoughts about slitting his throat on the spot, that's how annoyed he was. For the past 3 hours straight, they have been talking about Konoha history. Not only did he know this stuff, but they were also now reviewing every single major history moment again, which irritated him even more. They talked about it for another whole hour and Naruto didn't stop pinching his nose bridge or rubbing his temples. Fortunately for him though, Iruka stopped talking about nonsense in Naruto's point of view and started announcing something important. Alright, I have something big to announce. As you may or may not know, this week is the graduation exam. So make sure to make me proud of you guys. Shouted Iruka with a toothy grin. Finally, I can dispel, but first, thought the clone with a sigh. Don't you dare talk to us, make me proud, do you know how boring history is? This class should be considered mental torture, at least. Bursted Naruto with a look on his face as if he went through hell. Naruto, why did you have to ruin the moment? Replied rather loudly, Iruka. Why, I'll make you see. HMPH, sexy jutsu, screamed Naruto doing a ram hand seal. The next thing that happened sent Iruka flying through the room with a nosebleed and a weird drooly smile on his face. Naruto was now transformed into a young blonde lady with beautiful facial features. Void black eyes and completely naked if we don't count the 2 puffs of smoke that were covering her breasts and vagina from exposure. Iruka got a hold of himself not long after. He started chasing Naruto around the classroom and hit him on the head. To his surprise though, Naruto burst into a puff of smoke. Fuck, were the last thoughts of the clone before dispelling. What the? Thought Iruka out loud. It seemed that all the students were just as surprised as he was. He needed to report to the Hokage, this was something not to be overlooked. Iruka held a serious face. Anyways, you are dismissed. Go rest before the graduation exam. The legend of Uchiha Naruto. Fuck, thought Naruto. That was the last thought of his clone before dispelling. A sudden realization hit him. No ordinary academy student should know the shadow clone jutsu. He sighed. His theater was crumbling a little by little, and he wouldn't be surprised if Iruka told the Hokage about it. I think next time I'm in class, I might as well drop my play. The Hokage will understand that I'm not stupid, so there is no sense forcing it, thought Naruto. Naruto still had time though. The graduation exam was in what? A couple of days. He had enough time to practice, train, and maybe read a couple of scrolls on Fuinjutsu. But first, he had to finish his training. After he finished his training he went to the clothes shop and entered it with henge of an adult of course. He wondered for 10 minutes before a set of clothes caught his eye. It was a black set of shinobi attire, and it looked good. So for Naruto, it was killing 2 birds with 1 stone. He got a camouflage shinobi attire that looked good. He took it and went to cash it out. Isn't that little for you? Asked the cashier playfully. It is, but it's not for me. It's for my son. He graduated from the academy and I wanted to buy him a present. Replied the man with a fake smile. Naruto. Then that will be 4,100 ryo. Naruto got out of his pocket the said amount of money and left with his new set of clothes. When he got home he decided it was time to rest. Hiru. Zen was sitting in his chair doing what every Hokage does, paperwork. He was cursing at the amount of paper that needed to be read and signed. That was until he heard a knock on the door and with a enter. He allowed the person on the other side to enter. The door opened to show Iruka with a serious face forged on his face. The Hokage was wondering why Iruka looked this serious. Hokage-sama greeted Iruka with an uneasy voice. What is it, Iruka? Asked Hiruzen. Naruto. He knows the shadow clone jutsu, replied Iruka. Hiruzen just sighed tiredly. Naruto really was an enigma. Firstly, he acts like an idiot, but now he knows a kinjutsu. Was he just putting up an act? Probably. Shisui was a splendid shinobi and so was Itachi, and to train under them with no power gain is just sad. Leave him be, for now at least, said Hiruzen. Yes, Hokage-sama, if I see any change in Naruto's behavior, I will come to report it, said Iruka as the Hokage dismissed him. Night time. Naruto was standing outside of the Naka shrine. He could feel the light breeze from the lake behind him. When he entered, he immediately saw his objective, the 7th tile. With a short walk, Naruto held a ram hand seal, and on the tile, a black Sharingan started showing as well as black markings that were hugging the tile tightly. Much to Naruto's surprise, the tile started ascending, only to show a hidden stairway. He started walking down and saw a huge leveled room with a tablet at one end. When he got to see it, he realized he couldn't read anything. What the hell, thought Naruto. The Sharingan manifested in his eyes, wondering if this would do any difference. And it did. The tablet read, My Uchiha children, I am writing this, so you can understand the truth of this world. I am the Sage of 6 Paths, and firstly I'll talk about your visual prowess. The Sharingan, powerful eyes, but they do come with a curse, and that curse is your love. The more psychological trauma the host experiences, the more his visual prowess matures and gets more powerful. And there comes a moment when the host experiences something very traumatic, usually the death of a close one. The Sharingan eyes evolve into the Mangekyo Sharingan. And the rest of Naruto was unreadable. He wondered and wondered until an idea came into his mind. He quickly remembered the sacrifice Shisui made for the village, and a pair of Mangekyo Sharingan came into view for the world to see. When the host awakens the Mangekyo Sharingan, a whole new world of possibilities opens up. Of course, if the host does not go insane, which will be his downfall, and the only thing I have to say is that the eyes are powerful. They grant the host a special ability in both eyes each. But be wary, the more use of the Mangekyo Sharingan, the more your eyesight is fading away as well. The only way to prevent blindness is to transplant your eyes with another Mangekyo eyes. The eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, the eternal light. And now to my story, or rather the story of our world. Very long ago, a woman came from space into our planet. She planted a special seed into the ground and waited long for it to grow. During that time, she fell in love with a human, and it led to her pregnancy. When the people found about it, they decided to execute her. They finally found her close to the tree she gave life to a couple of years back, and she was very weak due to her pregnancy, but there was a special fruit that the tree produced, the chakra fruit. In her desperate position, she saw no other way for her children to survive, so she ate it. The next thing that happened, she became a god. She quickly slaughtered the men that tried to kill her, and she ruled the world with the power she received. And after some time, I was born. I lived a normal childhood, not until my mother started feeding humans to the 10 tails. The humans that were fed to it were under a genjutsu of their desires. At the time there was a girl I loved, and after a while she disappeared, and I found her in the 10 tails statue, dead. That is when I awakened the Sharingan. Naruto couldn't believe what he was seeing. He couldn't read anymore, but 10 tails. Eternal light. The Sage of 6 Paths was real. He needed time to process the information he received. On his way back home, a sinister thought entered his mind. A jigsaw puzzle was starting to piece itself together. Eternal light. Shisui and Itachi talked about it before Shisui killed himself. The eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. When another Mangekyo eyes are swapped with yours. Could it be? Did Itachi swap his eyes with Shisui's? Oh my fucking god, thought Naruto. I didn't feel any different from when he used the Mangekyo. No blindness, no sort of pain. That left only one conclusion. he was now seeing through Shisui's eyes. After waking up, Naruto quickly put on his new ninja attire. After a nice breakfast, he went to do his morning training. When Naruto was done with his morning training, he set off to the academy. A rush of unanswered questions ran through his mind. 10 tails. What kind of power did it hold? The Sage of Six Paths is real, and I'm with Shisui's eyes. Single quote. Naruto sighed at the last thought. Never in his wildest dreams did he think he would find himself in such a position. But his situation was of no importance at the moment. He had an exam to get over with. As Naruto entered his classroom, gasps could be heard. Naruto was holding his stoic face at the shock of his peers. And now that he thought about it, why exactly were they shocked? He really forgot, though a quick set of whispers reminded him. Is that Naruto? Wow, he changed clothes, but that doesn't really change anything. No matter what he wears, he'll be forever a dead last. Naruto smiled inwardly. These fools didn't know a scrape of his actual power. He trained under Uchiha Shisui, who had a flea on sight in the bingo book when he was alive, and Uchiha Itachi, who was an S-ranked criminal that murdered his whole clan in one night. That brought up memories, some good, some bad. He would never forget his training with Shisui. Over the past few years, he mastered a lot of jutsus. He had a lot of fire-style jutsus, a few lightning jutsus, and a couple of wind jutsus under his belt. Kaden Ryuka no Jutsu, Fire Release, Dragon Fire Technique. Kaden Hyuka no Jutsu, Fire Release, Flame Sphere Technique. Kaden Gukaku no Jutsu, Fire Release, Powerful Fireball Technique. Kaden Karyu Enden, Fire Release, Fire Dragon Blast. Kaden Kudakase no Jutsu, Fire Release, Shatter Force Technique. K. Eitan Hibashira no Jutsu, Fire Release, Blazing Column Technique. Kaden Hosenka Sumabeni, Fire Style, Phoenix Sage Flower Nail Crimson. Kaden Bakufu Ranbu, Fire Style, Blast Wave Wild Dance. Kaden Hikaru, Fire Style, Fire Release Stream. And so on. To say the least, for now, he was a ninjutsu expert. He beat Itachi in a taijutsu fight a few times. That spoke a lot by itself. He was very proficient in genjutsu with and without his Sharingan. His chakra control was very, very good. Shisui made him balance kunai on top of his fingertips, and after that he made him do it on all of his fingers at the same time. He also gave Naruto 2 types of sand with different colors and told him to separate the sand with chakra only. In the end, Naruto did it. His Fuinjutsu was doing great. He hadn't stopped learning new seals and even creating some. And also he never removed his weights from his legs and arms, but he replaced them with seals that did the job even better. In the end, he would consider himself at least a very high Chunin bordering low Junin, without the Sharingan that is. He wasn't sure how strong he was since there was no one to check his true power. There was, but he didn't want to reveal his Sharingan, at least for now. He was brought out of his thoughts when Iruka entered the class with a smile on his face. He quickly noticed Naruto's appearance to be different but decided not to question it. He'd have to talk to the Hokage about it. The other difference he noted was that he was not smiling anymore. His face was stoic and was sitting up straight. His blonde hair was falling on his face, covering his left eye. Imagine Madara's hair, but blonde and on Naruto's head. Closing parenthesis. Was he always like this? Last time I saw him, he was with short hair. Thought Iruka Yumino, suspiciously. Let the exams begin, shouted Iruka, while paying attention to Naruto. Naruto was sitting in his class without a care in the world. They were currently doing a paper test. The questions were about Konoha's history. Who founded the village hidden in the leaf? Who was the first Hokage? Naruto knew the answers but decided to play a little dumb and not mark all of them correctly. He glanced at the test with a sigh. That fool Mizuki tried to sabotage him with a genjutsu. A simple genjutsu would never even wind Naruto since he was proficient in that shinobi area. But he couldn't discard the thought that Mizuki was up to something. After the test, they continued to the ninjutsu test. It was nothing special. Clone jutsu, substitution jutsu, and transformation jutsu. He mastered them at the age of 5 when he started training with Shisui. Well, Not exactly mastered the clone jutsu, but after Shisui made him master all those chakra control exercises, he could do a few clones. Will Uchiha Sasuke step forward? Asked Iruka. Uchiha Sasuke was an exceptional student. A prodigy. No one would wonder if he passed the exam with flying colors. Sasuke stepped forward with a bored expression on his face. Perform the clone jutsu. Without a signal from Sasuke, 5 clones appeared beside him. His fan girl club started screaming how Sasuke was the best, but with another look at Sasuke, Naruto realized that he couldn't care less about them. Though, 2 females stood out from the rest of the other fangirls. Yamanaka Ino and Haruno Sakura. Ino came from one of the clans that joined Konoha during the clan war era. They specialized in mind jutsus, and sadly for Naruto, she was the heir. It didn't bother Naruto that she was a woman. What bothered Naruto was that she was the heir. She was incompetent, weak, and ignorant. Truly not befitting for the heir of such a great clan. She had blonde hair. The other woman, Haruno Sakura, she was a lost cause. Sakura was even worse than Ino. At least Ino came from a clan, she came from a civilian family. Frankly, those two wouldn't make it alive from a mission. That was Naruto's conclusion. While Ino had blonde hair, Sakura had pink. Iruka was going through the students when finally Naruto heard his name being called. Uzumaki Naruto, said Iruka. Naruto went forward and looked at the man. Perform the clone jutsu. With a half-ram hand seal, 3 clones popped into existence. Iruka nodded. Transformation jutsu, said Iruka, yet again. Without any hand seals, Naruto transformed into a perfect copy of the 3rd Hokage, Sarutobi Hiruzen. Iruka didn't look surprised at all. Good, and lastly the substitution jutsu, Iruka added. Naruto substituted with a nearby chair along with a puff of smoke. Now Iruka wouldn't say it out loud, but he felt pride in Naruto. He liked the kid and knew he had a good heart. That's for his former self, at least. This new Naruto was calm, and smart too. He didn't actually show, but Iruka knew it. Good, you may return to your seat, said Iruka, not letting any emotions out. Naruto simply nodded and started walking to his seat. On his way there, he stopped and looked at Sasuke, who wasn't paying attention to him. Naruto kept his stoic gaze and continued on his way. The rest of the exam went pretty boring if you were to ask Naruto. Iruka told them to come the next day to get their Konoha headbands, for those who passed, that is. He went home and decided to go grab a quick snack before going to bed. On his way to the convenience store, he saw Mizuki running off with a giant scroll in his arms. Naruto narrowed his eyes as he knew what the scroll was. The Forbidden Scroll. It was a scroll full of kinjutsus that were village secrets. So he decided to go after him. He started jumping on top of buildings chasing after Mizuki, who was already in Konoha's forest. It took a few seconds before he reached him. Mizuki, what are you doing? Shouted Naruto, loud enough for Mizuki to hear. Mizuki smiled sickly when he noticed Naruto. What do you think I'm doing, demon? Mizuki started laughing like a madman. My day just getting better. Naruto remained stoic. You know, I'll have to murder you if you don't surrender. He said seriously. By the tone of his voice you know he wasn't joking. If possible, Mizuki started laughing even harder, tears starting to appear in his eyes. I guess I'll just make it quick, thought Naruto without worry. He rushed at great speed at Mizuki, who didn't even notice him. Naruto picked a kunai from his bag and sliced Mizuki's pinky and ring finger. As a result, Mizuki screamed in pain and Naruto had a smile on his face that rivaled Mizuki's in sickness. Fight me seriously, or you won't prove to be a challenge, said Naruto in a rather disappointed tone. I will kill you, screamed Mizuki as he rushed toward Naruto with a katana at higher speeds than any genin couldn't even start to comprehend. Naruto wasn't interested at all. Is that all he's got? I will just murder him. It's getting annoying, thought Naruto. Mizuki tried to slash Naruto in the chest, but Naruto dodged swiftly and grabbed the sword with his hands, stealing it from Mizuki. What are you going to do with that, huh? I bet you can't even hold it properly, shouted Mizuki. Naruto didn't like to answer questions through words, he preferred to answer through his actions. He rushed at Mizuki with speeds that the poor Mizuki didn't think was possible for a kid to be this fast. He tried to dodge, but Naruto was just too fast. He slashed to kill, but Mizuki had other plans. Mizuki tried to jump out of the way. Unfortunately for him, Naruto didn't seem to care. He sliced Mizuki's right leg off like a hot knife running through butter. Mizuki screamed in pain, but after a couple of moments, he shot a glare to Naruto, who again didn't seem impressed. But what surprised Naruto was that the glare quickly changed into a smirk, then a chuckle, laughter, and finally, he laughed madly at Naruto. For the first time in his life, Naruto didn't know what was going in someone's head, except the third Hokage. Mizuki had gone mad. He was laying there, without a leg from the knee down, laughing like he saw the funniest thing in his life. Something twitched in the woods and Naruto instantly shot his head toward the direction of the sound. He wasn't really surprised to see his sensei, Iruka Umino. "Iruka-sensei, what are you doing here?" asked Naruto, voice devoid of any emotion. "Is this really Naruto?" thought Iruka in surprise as he saw the now passed out from blood loss a form of Mizuki laying on the ground. He shook his head, discarding such thoughts. "Naruto, are you okay?" questioned Iruka in worry. Those words sure bring back memories," thought Naruto, inwardly amused. "I'm good. Now let me finish him," said Naruto as he started walking toward the passed out Mizuki. However, he suddenly sensed 12 new presences around him. He quickly turned to see Iruka. Alas, he was too late. He saw Iruka unconscious on the ground and an Anbu behind him. He noticed another few Anbus surrounding him in a circle. "Shit, I still can't take this many Anbus, I'm not strong enough. But I'm not going without a fight," added in his mind. Surprisingly, the fight wasn't one-sided at all. They were fighting well, but Naruto was standing his ground. "Kaden Ryuka no Jutsu, fire release. Dragon fire technique," shouted Naruto as a huge dragon came out flying through his mouth. Suiryuden no Jutsu, water release. Water dragon bullet, said one of the Anbus. A water dragon the size of Naruto's dragon appeared from thin air and collided with Naruto's fire one. The area immediately became misty and Naruto decided to use that as an advantage. "I can't mess with these people, that's for sure," thought Naruto as a pair of Sharingan were now evident in his eyes. He quickly located all of them through the mist and decided to take them out quietly. He threw 6 kunai. 3 of the Anbus dodged while the other half fell with a thud to the ground from a kunai to the jugular artery. Naruto grunted at the pain. It hurt like hell, but he didn't have the time to wonder about it. He charged at them, grabbing one of the Anbu by the neck and with a half a ram hand seal. "Kaden. Gokaku no Jutsu, fire style. Great fireball." Naruto jumped away as the fireball completely obliterated the Anbu. "I think it's time to even the numbers." They didn't say anything. Shadow Clone Jutsu 10 Naruto's popped into existence, all nodding at the same time. They rushed at the enemy with great speed. "Remember, no holding back," shouted Naruto to his clones. The Anbus started falling like flies. After the fight, Naruto relaxed and with a sigh, he sat on the ground beside Iruka. He had a great break before 40 Anbus came into his field of view. With a quick curse under his breath, he stood up. He knew that there was no chance that he'd beat them, so at this point, Naruto didn't know what to do. "Use them. Single quote. They'll save you." Not the Kyuubi, by the way. Naruto actually started thinking about using the Mangekyu. In this case, it didn't seem like a bad idea. The Anbus were observing Naruto when the eyes of every single Anbu widened. His eyes weren't the Sharingan's base form. No, they were a strange pattern. His eyes. The Mangekyu Sharingan. Such force, thought one of the Anbus. "Let's see what these eyes can do," thought Naruto with a sinister smile on his face that promised murder. He started running at them, and they started running at him. One of them slashed at Naruto, but he didn't dodge. The sword passed right through him. "Amaterasu," said Naruto monotonously as wine-red blood started dripping from his right eye. The Anbu on the other hand started screaming as black flames started surrounding him. He tried putting them out, but nothing worked. The man burned to ashes. "Who wants more of this?" asked Naruto sinisterly, and his eyes didn't help the Anbu with their decision either. They were creepy. They all rushed at him and he had only one thing to say. "Susanoo." The forest was not a forest anymore. It was a bloodbath. Every square inch of the forest was strewn with corpses and limbs. The smell of death and decay was overwhelming, and the sight of corpses in various states of decay was enough to make Naruto feel a little bit of pity for them. Blood had spilled everywhere. Every inch of the battlefield that you could see was bathed in blood and black flames. This forest was a grave. A graveyard. A place of no love, no happiness, and no life. This forest was a testament to the brutality of man and a reminder of the futility of life. As Naruto walked to the only man that made it through this hell, he grabbed him by the collar and lifted him up to his eye level. The look on the Anbu showed no signs of life, at least mentally. He didn't seem bothered by the scene around him at all. Naruto's M's flared dangerously at his eyes. Report to Danzo this. If he wants to meet me so bad, then tell him to do it in person, understood? Asked Naruto without a hint of emotion in his voice. The Anbu simply replied, yes, Naruto-sama. Naruto released him and the Anbu started running away as Naruto stood his ground without moving a muscle. The wonders of Koto Amatsukami. He then sensed a few Konoha units coming their way, so he thought it would be best to shoo while he can. He quickly put the forbidden scroll into Iruka's hands, who was still unconscious, and with a quick kunai through Mizuki's skull, he fled the scene. Upon Konoha's squad's arrival, they were stunned. There was so much death. The third Hokage quickly recognized the bodies of the fallen soldiers, Root Anbu. He saw Iruka laying on the ground holding the forbidden scroll. He also noticed a legless, dead Mizuki laying not too far away from Iruka. Hiruzen immediately ordered some medic nins to examine Iruka and, if they can, wake him up. He noticed some of his ninjas asking each other, who could have possibly done this genocide. They were all brought out of their thoughts, when one of the medics shouted, "He's waking up." They all rushed towards them. Iruka was stirring into consciousness as they surrounded him in a circle. When he was wide awake, he looked around him and noted all the corpses and blood. His eyes widened as sweat dripped from his eyebrows. "Are you okay, Iruka?" asked the third kindly, to which Iruka simply nodded. "Do you know who did this?" asked Hiruzen again. "It was Naruto," replied Iruka while still looking around. Many were shocked, Hiruzen included. How in the hell did Naruto kill so many Anbus? No, that was the wrong question. Why did he kill those Anbus was the right question. How did this happen? The Hokage asked. "I came to capture Mizuki, and when I caught up to him, I saw that Naruto was here first." Naruto seemed to have cut one of Mizuki's legs off and was about to end his life when someone knocked me conscious, explained Iruka. "Take Iruka to the hospital, and call an emergency meeting," stated Sarutobi Hiruzen firmly. Everyone nodded as they went on their way. 2 hours later. Council chambers. "Everybody, calm down," shouted Hiruzen. The room was full of shouts and screams. Some were shouting Naruto's execution, the civilian council of course, while others were trying to get it through their head. However, they didn't stop at the Hokage's comment. "Troublesome," sighed out Nara Shikaku to no one in particular. "Troublesome indeed," commented Yamanaka Inoichi with a grim face. They had just heard what happened and it was safe to say they weren't taking it very well. "Calm down," shouted Hiruzen, leaking not so tiny portion of ki. Everybody stopped in their tracks to look at him. The civilians had a very hard time breathing and the clan heads had a little bit of sweat rolling on their foreheads. "Get me Uzumaki Naruto," he added. 2 Anbus shunshined into view and bowed before leaving the room. Not long after, Naruto came into the room with the Anbus Hiruzen ordered. The Count C.L. immediately started spiraling out of control upon his arrival. There were shouts, screams, and cries even. Naruto looked around without a care in the world and asked the Hokage, "What for do you need me, Hokage-sama?" The Hokage sighed, "Naruto." Both of them knew exactly why he called for his presence. But let's see anyway. First of all, how did Naruto take out this number of Anbus? Secondly, why did he kill them? And let's not forget the fact that he still wasn't officially a shinobi either. It raised too many questions for the third, that he didn't have the answers for. "Care to explain what happened?" asked the Hokage. "Explain what?" Naruto shot back with a question. "You know about what?" The Hokage replied. "I just served my village as a shinobi. That's what happened." stated Naruto without emotion and with a blank face, a face that awfully reminded Hiruzen of Uchiha Itachi. You are still not technically a shinobi, replied Hiruzen. It was true since they haven't checked the exams. But it wouldn't be a surprise if Naruto passed with flying colors. Naruto looked at him amused. What was he trying to say? That he was committing crimes. Or maybe, that he should have just let Mizuki run away. It was clear that he murdered Konoha shinobi, but only because they started attacking another Konoha shinobi. Naruto sighed, hardly. Hiruzen followed his sigh. But even with this, they were attacking a citizen. It was also true that he attacked Mizuki first, but he did give him a warning beforehand. Uzumaki Naruto, I verbally promote UT.O Genin rank in the village Konohagakure. What happened last night is to be classified information and marked as an S-class mission, said the third, handing Naruto a headband and shocking anyone present except Naruto. It was around then when Naruto shot Danzo a glance that wasn't an angry glance nor a glance of fury, but a glance that was dark and sinister, screaming, I will have so much fun with you. Danzo merely narrowed his eyes at Naruto. Any objections? Asked the third. Unsurprisingly, the civilian council started enraging and outbursting. Hokage-sama, you can't be in the right mind to promote the demon to a shinobi. Yes, such screams could be heard. And Naruto didn't take it very well. He leaked twice of ki the amount the Hokage did. The civilians fell to their knees from their chairs while the clan heads were trying their best to breathe normally while sweating. Hiruzen looked at Naruto in surprise. And another thing only Naruto noticed was that Danzo was smiling. Dare to repeat what you said? Asked Naruto as a sick smile crept its way onto his face. I didn't say anything. I swear, screamed the civilian while he cried. Naruto stopped releasing ki and said, you are no fun, as he returned to his stoic features. Naruto, do not try such thing again, understood? Said the third. Understood. You may go now. Naruto shunshined out of the room without further comment. Now, on to more important matters. As Nara Shikaku opened the door to his house, he could clearly hear his son muttering the word troublesome, and he couldn't blame him. He looked and saw his wife supervising Shikamaru as he ate while holding a stick. Where did she get that from? It was always good to hear both sides of the story before acting. What happened? Asked Shikaku. I'll tell you what happened, Dad. This crazy woman is forcing me to eat, said Shikamaru. Rookie mistake. Never call a woman crazy. Shikamaru got smacked in the back of the head. Hard. He winced in pain as Shikaku chuckled. It was not uncommon for such things to happen in the Nara household. It was amusing, to say the least. Hey Dad, do you know that kid, Uzumaki Naruto, I think his name was? Asked Shikamaru. I know him, why? Replied Shikaku with a question. He's so strange, one day he's a complete idiot, next day he's calm, collected. Serious even. Do you know why? Stated Shikamaru. His father started laughing as he poured himself a drink. You wouldn't imagine. He's one hell of a kid, surprised me a handful of times already. Chuckled out Shikaku. His son looked at him dumbfounded. What did he do to surprise you? Asked Shikamaru. I'll tell you when you get older. Shikamaru. You looked at his father unknowingly while muttering another. Troublesome. What do you want, Danzo? Asked Naruto as he got out of his bed. It seemed that the council meeting for Danzo was over and decided to pay Naruto a visit. It wasn't surprising to Naruto at all. He did send one of his men to kindly inform him to meet in person. I want the same as you want, Naruto replied Danzo. He was careful not to call him Kyuubi as he saw what would happen. He had to play his cards right. He was still hiding his ace from him though. Continue, replied Naruto, face stoic as ever. We both want the safety of the village. As the two of us know, I have an underground organization that's doing Konoha's dirty work under everyone's noses. Join me, work together with me, and Konoha shall rule over the elemental nations. And why exactly would I do that? I know everything about the Uchiha massacre, Shisui's death, and most importantly, that you are behind it all. Why would I join you? Asked Naruto. Danzo seemed to stop for a moment to think. His ace would have to come into play if he wanted Naruto on his side. It didn't matter anyway, he would have used it sooner or later. If you join me, I will tell you everything about your parents, said Danzo. He smiled inwardly as he saw Naruto actually considering his decision. It was best to sweeten up the deal at this moment. You don't have to worry about your team. I'll show you how to make a blood clone. It can last for years, and it lives and dies as a real human, said Danzo. Naruto stopped and thought for a while. Before answering, fine, Danzo. I'll play your game for now. And one last thing, I know about your Sharingan, so don't try to hide it. Naruto didn't look surprised at all. It was like as if he knew that he knew, and it didn't bother him in the slightest. I'll drop you a visit tomorrow, was the last thing Naruto said before Danzo left. Naruto was walking down the route Anbu hallways in his Anbu attire. He was walking at a normal pace toward Danzo's throne. He was being called for duty by him. He walked and walked until he found himself before Danzo. The last couple of days, one wouldn't prefer to as normal. He had to create a clone that would last a very long time until it dies. Not only that, he had to move all of his belongings to a new place inside the Anbu headquarters. He got a new uniform and got to know a lot of new guys. Well, not exactly, because they didn't have any emotions, no guilt, no love, not hate in it. Amused Naruto how a human being can be like that. It was defying all human psychology. But two guys particularly stood out, Shin and Sai. Shin was around a couple of years older than him, and Sai, Sai and Naruto were probably the same age. It didn't look like Sai had emotions, but the odd one was Shin. It was like he was forcing his emotions on Sai, and they looked like brothers even. Everything else was as he expected. Not only that, he was told who his parents were last night, and to say the least, he was pissed, but after Danzo reassured him that his parents, Namikaze Minato and Uzumaki Kushina, were true shinobi and heroes for sacrificing themselves for the village, he wasn't that pissed, just a little unpleased. He asked him why did he have the Sharingan if none of his parents were Uchihas. He was told by Danzo that he wasn't sure. It was probably one of his grandparents that was an Uchiha, if not both. It was safe to say, he took it calmly. What do you need me for, Danzo-sama? Asked Naruto, just as emotionless as the other root Anbus around them. I'm sending you on a mission. You were to send a scroll to the Tsuchikage. Nothing more, nothing less, is that clear? Asked Danzo with his unreadable expression. Clear, Danzo-sama, replied Naruto. Good, you'll go with Team Tora. With a nod, Naruto left for his room to prepare. Naruto as running with his squad through a forest. Apparently, they were really close to the stone country and some stone shinobi were waiting for them. Wasn't sure how this was going to play out since his father killed a lot of them during the Third Shinobi War. He didn't know what was in the scroll, so he decided to ask his captain. Captain, what is in the scroll? Asked Naruto. Danzo-sama is requesting a hidden alliance with the Hidden Stone Village, replied the commander of the mission. Naruto decided not to comment further as he understood these guys probably couldn't keep up a conversation. Soon they went through a clearing with a rocky road ahead and 3 squads of stone shinobi. Naruto immediately realized they were in deep shit and prepared himself if said shit hits the fan. Rely this on to the Tsuchikage, said one of the Anbus as he threw the scroll, which the other shinobi caught easily. I will, the Iwa shinobi said as he made a weird signal with his free hand. The next thing they knew, kunai with explosive tags started flying toward Konoha's team. Naruto was able to get out of the way fast enough, along with a few others who saw his body language and realized what was happening. Others, well, they kicked the bucket. The explosion sent guts everywhere, covering Naruto and the others. Tisk. Naruto made an annoyed sound as he removed a long intestine that was laying around his neck almost as a necklace would. He looked around and realized their captain didn't make it. It wasn't a good situation they were in. Crow, take out as many as you can. If you see fit, run, said the ox-masked Anbu. Naruto was gifted with the codename Crow. Ironic, isn't it? Danzo gave him the codename just the other day. Also, Naruto was an important figure. Being a Jinchuriki and they couldn't risk him dying on a mission, so Danzo ordered all of them that if the mission went south, to protect Naruto at all costs. Got it. He had no problems taking orders. From smart people at least. If it had been one of his classmates commanding him in that kind of situation, he would prefer to commit suicide. Naruto raw, and threw them like a hot knife through butter with his ninja. A lot of people noticed it and realized that it would be better to take him out at all costs. A lot of Iwa shinobi started rushing toward Naruto. Ox, we have to save him. Sheep-masked Anbu shouted while fighting with an Iwa shinobi with swords. Don't worry, I personally checked his strength. Look, he isn't even using his Sharingan, said Ox as he had his own fight to attend to. And it was true, Naruto had yet to use his Sharingan. Meanwhile, the Iwa shinobi fighting Ox looked at him in pure horror. He heard about the Uchiha massacre not too long ago. The Uchiha clan was one of the two most feared clans in the whole world, and to encounter the sole survivor, Uchiha Sasuke, he think it was. And he was still no more than a kid. Just how powerful was he? With Naruto, the situation wasn't beautiful, for the stone shinobi that is. He activated his Sharingan and began slaughtering them one by one. He was dodging swiftly as they tried their best to pierce him. This is becoming annoying. He weaved a few hand signs. Sweden. Hahenryu, water release, destruction torrent. One of his opponents quickly weaved hand signs of his own and shouted, Kaden Gokagyu no Jutsu. Fireball Jutsu. But instead of Naruto releasing water, he released fire. A huge fire barrage that was completel. Why overpowering the Iwa shinobi's fireball looked pathetic in comparison. They were all too shaken to move away in time. If not, they accepted their deaths, and as the fire embraced them, they downgraded to mere ash. Half down, another half to go, Naruto said as a few other squads of Iwa shinobi came rushing down their way. Speaking of the devil, we have to retreat, shouted Naruto to his subordinates. He ran to them quickly killing their opponents with surprise attacks. Ox, we have to retreat, said Naruto firmly. Ox and the sheep looked at each other before nodding. Ox, remember we were trained for this, said Sheep. Ox looked at him before smiling, totally ignoring Sheep. You have to retreat, we'll hold them off as long as we see two kunais with explosive tags pierced each of Ox's kneecaps. Naruto grabbed Sheep and jumped to the side, saving both of them. A loud explosion followed, and Naruto narrowed his eyes as he saw Ox without legs from his knees down. The area around them was full of blood. Mom, I want to go home, Mom. It's too scary, I don't want to die. These were the last Ox said before dying. Sheep started screaming in a mix of anger and sadness, which completely shocked Naruto, though he decided to flee. Sheep, let's go, shouted Naruto. You go, I'll murder those bastards to the last of them, shouted Sheep back. He started running with his ninjutsu, murdering Iwa shinobi. Naruto realized that his actions will have grave consequences and flee the battlefield. On his way back to Konoha, Naruto pondered why the sheep cried or shouted. They were supposed to be emotionless. It didn't matter, for now, he would ask Danzo once he came back. Not only that, he was the only survivor as far as he knew, but one thing was clear to him. Anybody from his that stayed there is 100% dead. Now that he thought about it, he could have used his Mangekyo Sharingan, they would have won for sure, but they weren't sent to create a mess or scene. A single alliance request. Danzo informed him that this mission would go smoothly. Guess what, it was not simple, and neither did it go smoothly. Danzo-sama, here to report on my mission. Naruto looked at Danzo who nodded. Our squad was ambushed by Iwa forces. We were completely outnumbered and decided to flee. Unfortunately, some of my subordinates gave their lives to create an opening for me to escape. They didn't make it, stated Naruto without batting an eyelid. Danzo nodded again. Anything else? Naruto stood still for a couple of seconds before asking. Permission to speak freely, asked Naruto. Danzo looked at him interested in what he had to say, so he permitted him. During the end of the mission, Ox and Sheep didn't act like Root. Also, this mission seemed tense and suspicious. Perhaps you knew that it would happen like this. Danzo smiled a truly happy smile. I'm surprised you caught on, to be honest. I indeed knew that it'd happen as it did. And they reacted like that because they were trainees, newbies if you will. And you are still one too, but I will put you to the final test soon. I don't think you will find it hard, seeing how you performed on your mission, I am pleased. Whatever you say, Give me more missions, and keep them coming. 1 month later, Naruto has done overall 2 C rank missions, 25 B rank, 56 A rank, and surprisingly 1 S rank, actually 2 S ranked, if you count the time he murdered a lot of Danzo's Anbus. He had experience. His last month was kinda rough. He had to kill his best buddy in a duel to the death. Danzo intentionally led someone to become his friend, partner, and brother in all but blood and then made them kill each other. Naruto killed him. It was not easy on him, but it was a great wake-up call. It disturbed him how easily he got over his death. His name was Yakumi. He was back to normal in a couple of days, with no crying, no mourning. And then came the missions. He couldn't count how many times he should have been dead anymore. He had been to Iowa more times than he would dare admit. Assassinations, inflations, staying undercover, and information gathering, which most of the time involved seducing mature women into giving him intel. Then it came to that stupid snake, Orochimaru. Honestly, he fell. Like a damn messenger crow between the two of them. All summed up, he traveled the world for free and met a lot of famous, or wanted as the word, people. He had a mentor that was extremely powerful. Ellen was teaching him wind manipulation. He mastered lightning manipulation a long time ago. He was currently chilling in his apartment when another Anbu entered the room. You have been requested for a mission by Danzo-sama. Report to him directly, he said before disappearing. Naruto got out of his bed, put his attire on, and walked out of the room. On his way there nothing interesting happened. No, something happened for sure. There was no Shin besides Sai, and now that he thought about it, he hasn't seen Shin in a while for now. He shrugged his shoulders. Probably Sai killed him. Must be hard for him, thought Naruto without much interest. When he got to Danzo, he faced him saying, "You requested me, Danzo-sama." "Indeed, Naruto. There's a little problem." Naruto raised a single brow. "Your current team is taking a suspicious mission to the Land of Waves. The customer is lying about the mission's parameters. On the mission you'll probably encounter high-ranked shinobi," said Danzo. "Good enough. Wrong intel is always worse than no intel at all." Danzo nodded and Naruto continued, "What about my clone though? There's another bad news. Your clone had seemed to bend itself into its own persona. He is quite annoying," said Danzo. "So, where is he?" asked Naruto. "Bring him in," stated Danzo suddenly. Naruto shunshined into existence, and he looked like his old self, wearing the same orange jumpsuit he did a couple of months back. He had shorter hair and a headband strapped tightly on his forehead. "I will become Hokage. Believe it." Naruto pinched his nose bridge and sighed loudly. His clone looked at him angrily. "What? Just because I'm a clone doesn't mean I won't become Hokage. And then everyone will acknowledge me," shouted his clone. "Shut up, or I'll kill you." The original Naruto leaked a little bit of his ki and his clone almost filled his pants with that brown goo. You could see that he wasn't bluffing. He could always create a new clone to replace his dead one. "I'll take care of the mission, Danzo," said Naruto, dropping the sama. It didn't matter how much Danzo tried to make Naruto emotionless, he just couldn't do it. He tried everything, but nothing worked. Though, from the reports he was receiving on Naruto, he looked like he was acting like a root on missions. Which was good. "Tomorrow, 8:30 a.m., Village Gates," said Danzo as Naruto left the room. It was already 9:30 a.m. and Naruto was more than pissed. He was on top of a roof, near the village gates, chilling and also observing his teammates. He was unpleasantly surprised to find out that Sasuke and Sakura were total stuck-ups. Sakura couldn't stop trying to help herself by asking Sasuke out on a date, to which Sasuke always brutally refused. And 5 minutes later, she asked him again only to get rejected all over again. Naruto decided to show himself to see their reactions. He's been bored all morning and had nothing better to do anyways, might as well enjoy himself a little bit. He shunshined near the group with a sword strapped on his back, which consisted of Sasuke, Sakura, and that bridge builder whom he couldn't remember the name of. They all looked at him in shock. Sasuke quickly got over his shock and decided to ask, "What's it with you, Dobi? Got any kind of split personality we should be aware of?" Naruto didn't look the least interested in what Sasuke had to say, but after a moment decided to answer anyways. "I can assure you that I have no such thing as split personality," said Naruto without a glint of emotion, looking a little amused at the face Sasuke made. "Sasuke-kun, why not show him his place once and for all?" demanded Sakura. And Naruto made an even more amused face. This team was falling apart. This stupid girl, can't she feel his presence at all? Thought Sasuke a little uncomfortable. He was not wrong. Naruto changed a lot in a good way during his stay in the ANBU. Sasuke was not the only one to feel his aura. Surprisingly, Tazuna too looked uncomfortable, but didn't understand where he got the feeling from. Kakashi came just in time to defuse the situation. He looked at Naruto and sighed loudly. For some time, he and Hiruzen had talked about Naruto's change in behavior. After a few meetings, they concluded that their Naruto was a fake and Naruto was somewhere else. Just seeing him at the moment, he could see so much change, longer hair, and looking at him he could see that he was extremely strong. They were correct, there are two if not more Narutos. "Hello Naruto, nice to finally meet you. I've heard a lot about your exploits since we last met." Aide Kakashi, taking his look off his book. Sasuke and Sakura looked at Kakashi a little suspicious. "Likewise, Kakashi," replied Naruto, again not looking too interested. "Let's go, shall we?" suddenly said Kakashi. And they started walking through the gates. As the walk went by, Kakashi started asking the bridge builder Tazuna weird questions. Naruto couldn't blame him, it was good to know all the details. But Kakashi didn't stop there, he asked a lot of more oppressive questions. It looked like Kakashi knew something was going to happen. Of course, something was going to happen. That was why he was there after all. His mission was to protect Uchiha Sasuke. Naruto noticed a slight movement in the trees. He already knew who the intruders were, the demon brothers. With one swift motion, Sasuke threw a kunai in an almost random direction. He went to see what he got and was frustrated when he realized that there was nothing more than a white bunny. Sakura immediately rushed to the bunny at great speed, caught it, and started cuddling the life out of it. Sasuke continued his way with a balanced pace. Naruto already realized what this was, a substitution rabbit. He looked at Kakashi to see if he can get anything out of it, but nothing came out of his face. He started walking along with the rest of his team. Not long after, Naruto noticed a puddle ahead of them. Transformation jutsu, it hasn't rained in weeks, thought Naruto with indifference. They continued walking without a care in the world when Kakashi stepped over the puddle. Suddenly two guys with metal face masks came out flying out of the said puddle. Both of them covered Kakashi in their spiky chains and pulled against each other's direction, and the result was Kakashi falling into tens of different pieces. Sakura screamed in horror as she saw her sensei getting decapitated. Sasuke narrowed his eyes and Naruto didn't look concerned at all. "One down, 4 more to go," said Mizu while doing a sadistic eye smile. He, along with his brother, rushed at their little group, while Sasuke started doing the same. Naruto didn't move a muscle and Sakura couldn't move a muscle from fear. Naruto looked at Sasuke and decided to let him have his fun. If he was starting to lose, Naruto would take care of it. Sasuke started fighting with the demon brothers. Dozu started running towards Sasuke while waving his chain around. Sasuke saw an opportunity in all of this and threw a kunai that perfectly fit on one of the chain holes and nailed it in one of the trees. Dozu released the chain from his hand and continued to run to Sasuke. They engaged in a taijutsu battle. Dozu was throwing punches which Sasuke dodged and returned kicks. Dozu got kicked in the jaw and created some distance between them. Mizu silently got behind Sasuke and waited for his opportunity. He planned to attack Sasuke from behind while he was fighting with his brother. Naruto quickly realized what was going on and still didn't do something. Sasuke needed to look after himself or he wouldn't survive in this world. Naruto guessed it was a great lesson. Or more like an exercise. Sasuke rushed at Dozu and started weaving signs. "Kaden, Gokaku no Jutsu, fire style, great fireball," shouted Sasuke with all his might. Dozu dodged the fireball, but with a price though. His whole cloak was almost burnt and seemed to be in pain too. Sasuke saw this moment of weakness and set off to deliver the final blow. Mizu saw that too and shunshin to Sasuke's side for him to see who killed him. He would kill him once and for all. Meanwhile, Naruto looked at how the situation unfolded itself. I guess I can't let anything happen to him, thought Naruto. Sakura had her eyes widened as she saw that her beloved Sasuke would die in front of her eyes. Sasuke had his eyes widened too since he was about to die. He used his own shunshin to Mizu's side, and with a single punch to Mizu's forehead, his head exploded into bits of skull, and brains flew everywhere. Sasuke realized what he was covered with and puked to the side. He unscathed his katana and rushed to Dozu at speeds neither one of them could follow. With 2 slashes, Naruto turned to Sasuke, who was very shocked, asking, "Are you okay?" Dozu's arms fell off like a sack of potatoes, and he started gawking as he fell to the ground, unconscious. Sasuke was left speechless after what he had seen. To Kakashi, it was a good time to show himself to his team. He hid beside Naruto while reading his Ika. Was it necessary to be this brutal? It was the most effective way, replied Naruto. Effective, yes. Clean. Well, no. Well, it was good that you left the other one alive, stated Kakashi. Was the reply he got off from Naruto as he walked to Dozu and tied him to a tree. Kakashi turned around and went to Tazuna. You and I have a lot to talk about. 15 minutes later, Kakashi's team just found out that this mission was far more complicated than what the client said it would be. Naruto already knew of this, so it wasn't a surprise for him and Kakashi since he knew something was going on, but for Sakura and Sasuke, it was a shock, to say the least. We have to return back to the village, said Kakashi firmly. He couldn't risk the lives of kids for a liar. Who knows what they would encounter if the demon brothers were on their tail for some time. Sasuke and Sakura kept their mouths silent, but surprisingly Naruto argued with Kakashi, no. It's best if we continue the mission. It would look bad on Konoha if we back on this mission. Wouldn't be a surprise if other clients hear about this and choose another shinobi village for their tasks. And on top of that, you are a lot stronger than you show off, Kakashi. I know more about you than you think, said Naruto. Kakashi looked at him in thought, clearly seeing his point. But it kind of made him suspicious if Naruto really knew more about himself than he let on. But it didn't matter, they still had to go back to the village. Dozu interrupted their small talk with a loud series of screaming. With a single look from Naruto to Kakashi, he told him, leave it to me. Kakashi understood what he was about to do and decided to warn his students. He usually wouldn't let a kid do something like that, but the more information he got on the original Naruto, the better. You may want to look away. Sasuke kept his gaze firm while Sakura wasn't sure what to do. Naruto didn't wait for Sakura, he walked towards Dozu and stated his thoughts out loud, let's see. What organs can the human survive without? Appendix, stomach, a kidney. Probably without a lung. I've read that people can survive without half of their brain, did you know that? Asked Naruto with a sick smile on his face. Sasuke was feeling very uncomfortable and Sakura was basically threatening to pass out by this new Naruto. Kakashi just stood there observing what Naruto was going to do. He knew that psychological tricks held a major part when torturing. So maybe Naruto was putting up an act. He intended to find out. Dozu looked at him a little scared. Are going to tell me anything or do I have to cut through the chase? Asked Naruto and Dozu replied. No chance in hell. Naruto stretched himself while thinking. I've not done this in a while, I hope I'm not that bad. Fine by me, he said. And so it began, Naruto's form of art. He first took out Dozu's fingernails, which by Dozu's screams, it hurt a lot. Sakura couldn't bear the screams and passed out. Sasuke was feeling a little sick out from all this but decided against looking away. Naruto, realizing that this didn't have any effect, chose to move on to more painful ways to get him to talk. I don't think you need those fingers, do you? BEF. Or Dozu could realize what Naruto asked, all of his fingers were sliced off. He continued to scream very loudly. Naruto then got bored and sliced his stomach open. He made his way into his guts with his arm, ripped out a kidney, and showed it to Dozu, who screamed so loud in pain that he woke up Sakura. She looked around wondering what was happening before she saw Naruto holding a human organ in his hand. She instantly puked and passed out again. Sasuke was trying to keep himself together, and it was working to an extent. Naruto crushed the kidney, squirting blood all over himself and Dozu. He then proceeded to snap his rib cage in two, and by that time, Dozu was almost passed out from the pain. Naruto ripped out his right lung. Dozu started coughing intensely and blood started sliding from his mouth. Last chance. If you don't tell me everything, I'll experiment to see if a human can really live without half of his brain, said Naruto seriously. No chance. You demon! Shouted Dozu. Naruto replied by actions. He started cutting Dozu's scalp, leaving blood trails and showing the skull. Naruto started precisely cutting the skull using Wind C. Chakra-induced kunai and the brain showed in all of its fury. Dozu pissed his pants and decided to save his skin. Okay, I will tell. Dozu started acting a little bit bird-brainish from having his brain exposed. There was no skull to keep the pressure inside. Not sure if this is realistic. Closing parenthesis. Naruto stepped in front of him and looked him in the eyes. Do tell. By this time, Sasuke puked his guts out and Kakashi looked a little bit uneasy. It was a lot to see in one day. It was Izgato. Momochi Zabuza. Ahead, said Dozu as he slipped unconscious. Naruto relieved his body from its head with his katana. We have information. Wake up Sakura, and let's get going. Anko will be interested in this little moment of insanity, thought Kakashi with a sweat drop. Any objections on proceeding with the mission? Asked Kakashi. Everyone. Let's see. No risen arms, no talking. Then, if things go south, we are retreating. Mita. Rashi Anko was sitting in a dango shop in Konoha. She was eating her dango and drinking her sweet tea peacefully. She was in her mid-20s and had a great body figure. She had purple hair and purple eyes too. She was enjoying herself with a smile before sneezing. Anko looked irritated. Oh, who's talking about me? Whoever it is, he is getting a taste of my snakes for sure. With Team 7. 10 minutes later. Team 7, along with Tazuna, were walking on a dirt path toward the land of waves. They had just gotten out of the boat they were traveling through the sea with and set off on foot. They had been walking for some time now and the tension was through the roof. They were already aware of Momochi Zabuza, and it kept them on their toes. Suddenly, the area became misty. They couldn't see more than an arm's length. Naruto and Kakashi were already aware of what was happening. Naruto suddenly tackled Sasuke to the ground while Kakashi shouted, "Get down!" As he tackled Sakura and Tazuna, they dodged a huge sword that was flying towards them by a second or two. The huge blade got stuck in a tree halfway through it, and on top of it a tall man with a muscular form teleported on it via Shunshin. He looked at them intimidatingly while saying, "Oh, Hatake Kakashi, the copycat, and Uzumaki Naruto, the Black Death." They dodged a huge sword that was flying towards them by a second or two. The huge blade got stuck in a tree halfway through it, and on top of it a tall man with a muscular form teleported on it via Shunshin. He looked at them intimidatingly while saying, "Oh, Hatake Kakashi, the copycat, and Uzumaki Naruto, the Black Death." Kakashi narrowed his eyes at Naruto, who didn't even flinch. Sasuke and Sakura looked at Naruto and Kakashi with surprise evident in their eyes. Their sensei must be a famous ninja, but Naruto, he was 14 for God's sake. What could have he done to be called Black Death? That irritated Sasuke to a great extent. He was younger than him and was already recognized by Rouge ninjas. Village secrets are not secrets at all, it seems, thought Naruto with hidden amusement. An S-ranked secret known by other nations. The third was an idiot. Well, it isn't surprising for what he did, thought Kakashi with a sigh and continued, "Momochi Zabuza. Oh, you know of me. It's flattering to be recognized by the legendary Hatake Kakashi," said Zabuza with a smile and a low chuckle. "Enough with those games, what do you want?" asked Kakashi. Of course, he knew already but wanted to see if Zabuza would lie. That would reveal a lot in their battle. "I'll keep it brief then. Hand over that old geezer, and I promise you that your little genins will survive this." "I think," replied Zabuza, a little too honest for his own good. "I'm afraid we cannot do such a thing, so prepare to die," said Kakashi as he pulled up his forehead protector, revealing a fully matured Sharingan. "Let's see how much control you have over your eye, Kakashi," thought Naruto, now interested in the situation. The Sharingan so early in the battle, now I'm truly flattered, Kakashi, said Zabuza as he took his blade and landed on the ground, doing a half-ram hand sign. I'll tell you the harsh truth, Kakashi. Your genins will never survive in this world. The only ninja that is worthy of being called shinobi are the ones that were in my bingo book while I was still in Anbu. The only exception is Naruto, he added with a dark smile. Sasuke and Sakura grimaced. Who is he to tell them that they aren't shinobi? He must hold himself really high to make such accusations. Sasuke was mad, really mad. He would have to show him not to underestimate an Uchiha. He was ready to rush at Zabuza. But he quickly stopped in his tracks when Zabuza started releasing a handful of his ki. He couldn't breathe properly, he was sweating uncontrollably, and the most important thing was, he saw visions of himself getting murdered by Zabuza. He was scared, and it was getting worse by the moment. Sakura, on the other hand, was taking it far worse than Sasuke. Tears were coming from her eyes as she realized what situation they were in. Death was pretty much the only outcome she saw. Sakura along with Sasuke, too, saw her death countless times. Kakashi looked at Sakura and Sasuke. He knew what they were going through and it must be hard for them by the looks on their faces. He noticed that Sasuke was reaching his kunai, and realized Sasuke would kill himself if it didn't stop. He quickly flared his one ki against Zabuza's and both the Uchiha and the pink-haired girl had time of relief. They felt as if a huge burden was relieved from their backs. Though, Kakashi's ki wasn't enough and they still found it hard to breathe. Naruto decided to step in and give it a shot to help Kakashi. He too released a handful of his ki, and with Kakashi's, they completely overpowered Zabuza's. In return, Zabuza started laughing madly as thick mist surrounded them. Tell me, Naruto, how did it feel to spill the blood of your comrades? I need to know, asked Zabuza as he continued laughing. You got to give it to them, they tried at least, said Naruto, not really answering Zabuza's question. Zabuza started laughing even louder. He admired the kid. Not many had the strength to kill so many shinobi at his age, even fewer had the balls to commit such a heinous crime, to kill your comrades. I have heard rumors that Uzumaki Naruto was just an idiot with no real strength. I knew something was fishy. It seems I was right, said Zabuza as a few kunai flew in a surprise attack at Team 7 through the mist. They were aiming exactly at Sakura and Kakashi got in the kunai's path. 4 kunais pierced Kakashi. One in the shoulder, one in the thigh, one in his left arm, and one in his right hand. Kakashi looked at him die for bloody murder and rushed at Zabuza. Naruto debated against joining the battle. He would leave Kakashi to take care of this fight. Naruto took a position in front of the bridge builder and stayed cautious. Kakashi found Zabuza with his Sharingan through the mist. Suddenly, a huge wave of wind blew the mist away. Zabuza had an annoyed look on his face and Kakashi understood that it was Naruto who did it. He mentally noted to thank him later as this solved a lot of his problems. His Sharingan wasn't that good in thick mists. Zabuza jumped and landed on the water while performing hand signs. Kakashi did the same thing and landed not too far away from him. He started weaving hand signs of his own, before Zabuza realized that he was doing the same hand signs as he was. However, Zabuza kept his cool. He didn't stop his hand signs and asked Kakashi, Can you see the future? Zabuza was a little unsure of this fight. Sure, he was strong, but this was one of the few times he stood up against the Sharingan and it wasn't a secret that he always lost. So, could it be that he can see the future? Yes, I can, answered Kakashi. He looked Zabuza in his eyes and he returned the glance. Alas, it was too late, Kakashi already had him in a genjutsu. Kakashi exceeded Zabuza's hand motion by far greater speeds. Suryuden no Jutsu, water release. Water dragon bullet technique. Zabuza's eyes widened as a water dragon roughly 10 meters in height dove dead straight toward him. He tried to run, but even Sasuke could see that he lost the battle. The water dragon crashed on Zabuza, and it sent him violently spiraling into a tree. As the water died down, Zabuza started coughing. It wasn't a pretty sight, to say the least. His body was full of cuts that were ranging from little to large. Blood was pouring from everywhere and he even started coughing up the red liquid too. Kakashi was not much better. He was bleeding from the stabbings he received earlier. When he settled down, Kakashi felt great fatigue overcome his body and in an instant, he passed out. Thankfully, Naruto was there to catch him in the nick of time. Sasuke was relieved that the danger had passed but then realized that Kakashi had the Sharingan and disturbed him greatly. He threw a tantrum at Naruto. "Naruto, how does Kakashi have a Sharingan?" shouted the Uchiha, demanding answers. He was gradually angered by how a non-Uchiha can have the Sharingan and he hasn't even awakened it. It was so frustrating and he needed answers. "Shut up," said Naruto while he lay Kakashi on the ground. He could hear Sasuke shouting at him, but he had bigger concerns. Zabuza wouldn't die from this level of jutsu. He walked to see Zabuza, who was still unconscious. He sighed. He grabbed a kunai and walked up to him. Just as he was about to slice his neck open, a few needles pierced him in the neck, which made Naruto cautious. He turned his head to see a masked Kiri shinobi walking his way. "What do you want?" asked Naruto. "Only Zabuza. Therefore I must thank you for weakening him. I've been following him for a few weeks looking for a situation to kill him and you helped me." "Thank you," said the shinobi. "Is he dead?" questioned Naruto. "I can assure you he is. Check yourself if you want to," the nin stated. Naruto walked up to Zabuza and checked his pulse. He wasn't so surprised to feel nothing. The next thing Naruto did shocked the Kiri shinobi. He threw a kick straight into Zabuza's jaw and he was unresponsive. "It seems that he really is dead. Though, I can't be really sure until I've killed him myself." The Kiri shinobi tensed. Before Naruto could say or do anything, a really dense fog surrounded them for a few seconds and then cleared, exposing no signs of the Kiri ninja or Zabuza. On their way to Tazuna's house, Sasuke didn't stop questioning Naruto about Kakashi and the Kiri shinobi. The next day, Kakashi woke up feeling very sore, all over his body. Any movement he'd try to initiate would send him straight to torture. He learned that the hard way. He didn't know what day it was, where he was, what happened with Zabuza, and most importantly, his students. He kinda passed out on them. He was powerless, in every way. Couldn't move, had difficulty speaking. Couldn't shout for anyone, no available chakra he could use. As Kakashi was trying to process what kind of situation he was in, the door opened, not much to his surprise, it was Naruto. But Kakashi was also relieved. Seeing Naruto meant that everyone was safe. "How are you feeling?" asked Naruto. "Been better. Anyway, what happened with Zabuza? How long was I out? And where are we?" asked Kakashi. "Don't worry too much. We are at Tazuna's house, everybody is safe." "And, how long was I out for?" "A day. Can you walk?" asked Naruto. "Hardly," replied Kakashi with a sigh. "Naruto!" screamed Sakura as she just entered the room. "What?" replied Naruto. "Where have you been? I've searched the whole house," shouted Sakura. "You haven't. If you had, you'd find me." "What do you want?" asked Naruto. Sakura was furious, but even furious was an understatement. She didn't shower last night, didn't get enough sleep, and the only time she needs Naruto, he's gone. Nowhere to be found. She threw a punch at Naruto who caught it easily. "Anything important to say, Sakura? I've got crucial things I need to discuss with Kakashi," Naruto added. She sighed frustratedly and left the room as Sasuke entered. "What was that about?" asked Sasuke. "We're not sure," replied Kakashi. "Sasuke, come sit with us, we have an important matter to discuss," declared Naruto. Now, that was a surprise to Sasuke. Naruto didn't want anything to do with him, for as long as he could remember. Sasuke sat beside Kakashi, who already had a frown on his face. He seemed to know why Naruto would want to talk to them. "I'll be brief. Zabuza is alive," stated Naruto. Kakashi sighed. Sasuke had a light frown on his face along with fidgeting with his fingers. This was a surprise for the teen. Surely that attack would have killed Zabuza, right? "What do you mean, Naruto? He looked pretty dead to me," asked Sasuke. "Ninjas are deceptive, Sasuke. The sooner you learn it, the better. The ninja should have taken his head and burned the body. She didn't. Not to mention that she used Senbon, which is a really precise weapon, and she aimed for the neck." With enough experience, Someone could fake death, explained Naruto. Sasuke nodded. So, what now? We train, declared Kakashi. The end. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.